the best place to work.
I love working here.
I feel very blessed.
I love it here.
I look forward to coming to work every day, being a part of this team.
Like a family away from home.
Where everyone feels like everybody knows their name.
A city that supports you. We see that with our benefits.
A pension, vacation days, job security.
Being able to be heard.
We feel valued. We feel respected.
Lee Summit is a very progressive city.
It's growing, it's thriving.
We have this drive towards not just doing a job, but doing it with a spirit of excellence.
I had the opportunity to continue to grow, regardless of 30 plus years doing this kind of work.
It's more than just dollars and cents.
We're here really to give back.
Providing a service to better a community.
To go out and serve people.
To be a part of something bigger than yourself. If I would have known what I know now, years ago, I would have been here much sooner.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Jordan. Here's your flash briefing for the week of May 11th. City Council will meet for regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers and City Hall. Meetings are open to the public or watch live on the city's YouTube channel. If you can't watch, catch the recorded meeting on demand on the YouTube channel or by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Looking for a fun night out with friends or someone special? Green Street is hosting Adult Night Out on Friday, May 15th at 7 p.m. Learn about the history of Prohibition and view a mocktail demonstration from Libations and Company. This event is for those 18 and older and is free to attend. Stay up to date with new events at greenstreetls.com. Tour de Lakes Bike Ride is Saturday, May 16th, beginning at 7 a.m. at Longview Community Center. Choose from 4 different routes around 5 different lakes in Lee Summit. Registration ends Friday, May 15th at 7 p.m. Find more information at lsparks.net. And join the Wellness Commission for a leisurely bird walk on Sunday, May 17th at 2 p.m. at Bailey Park. All birding skill levels are welcome, and bring binoculars if able. This event will happen rain or shine and last about an hour. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.
The City of Lee Summit has hundreds of traffic lights across its more than 1,000 lane miles, all managed by the city's Public Works traffic technicians. The work happens inside those metal boxes on the side of each intersection. Inside, technicians program a device called the controller. The controller communicates directly with each signal head via underground wires, telling each light when to turn on and off based on a programmed cycle. City traffic engineers design this cycle to allow traffic to flow as efficiently as possible for that particular intersection. In order to best match current traffic patterns, they install something called a detection system. Detection systems have taken many forms over the years, from sensors in the pavement to radar boxes. But in Lee Summit, they primarily consist of cameras, which workers mount above the traffic signals. These cameras don't record video or your speed. Instead, they monitor the spaces at the front of the intersection and identify when a vehicle is present in a specific spot. Once a vehicle is identified, the detection system sends a message to the controller, which then adapts its standard cycle to best serve the cars that are present. The pedestrian button works in a similar way. When the button is pressed, the controller receives a signal, requesting that it allow that section of the pedestrian walkway to go, which it then inserts into the signal pattern. Technicians also install something called a conflict monitor. The conflict monitor is a device in which they program all the potential patterns of lights that would lead to a collision. If the other systems mistakenly trigger those patterns, the conflict monitor sends the intersection into flash, causing all lights to flash red and directing drivers to treat it like an all-way stop. City traffic technicians implement and maintain these systems so effectively, we rarely consider them. But every time we safely pass through a signal-controlled intersection, it's all thanks to their work. So the next time you're waiting at a red light, remember the delicate coordination of super smart systems that move you through that space safely and efficiently every day. Keeping 500 miles of public sewer lines flowing keeps utility costs low and our environment healthy. The Lee Summit Water Utilities Operations Team does this every day. Sewer lines can be blocked with everything from roots to flushable wipes to food grease. When a potential blockage is identified, teams use detailed mapping to locate access points.
My camera's at 18038.
a camera truck parks at one end of the sewer line and a jet truck at the other. The camera truck carries a rover-type camera, which the team lowers into the manhole. The operator then drives the camera into the pipe, where it views and records from its adjustable lens. Here, it can identify the cause and precise location of the blockage. The jet truck will then use high-pressure water to remove the blockage. Starting at the opposite end of the line, the operator inserts the jet head into the manhole. Pressurized water shoots out of the head, clearing out debris and propelling it forward. The camera observes this process, and the two operators communicate via walkie-talkie to coordinate movement.
Hold it right there. Go ahead and fire it up, half pressure. I'm in front of you.
Once the jet head has passed the blockage, the operator reels it back in. The camera can then inspect the pipe to see if the blockage is cleared.
Yeah, go ahead and pull out. We're done.
With the job complete, the camera is removed, cleaned, and returned to the truck, and the crew moves on to the next job. In addition to addressing identified problems, the team will systematically check every line in the city in a 5-year period, keeping costs low and our community healthy, today and for years to come.
Officers en route, 914, armed robbery.
Keeping our city beautiful is a collaborative effort for all citizens. The City of Lee Summit supports these efforts with a set of guidelines or ordinances, and the city's neighborhood services team helps put those guidelines into practice. These guidelines ensure grass stays trimmed, fences are maintained, home exteriors are kept up, and much more. We can all help out by first making sure our property meets these guidelines. If you notice a potential violation on a neighbor's property, first check the guidelines on the city's website. If it is a violation, the next step is to communicate with your neighbor directly. If that is not possible, or if the problem persists, it can be reported through LS Connect. LS Connect is an online platform for submitting issues to the city. You can access it on the city website or by downloading the app through your mobile device's app store. Once you submit an issue, it is reviewed by the Neighborhood Services team. A Neighborhood Services officer will then visit the site. For any violations found, the Neighborhood Services officer will leave a notice and speak with the property owner if possible. The officer's goal is to help the property owner solve or abate the problem as quickly as possible. After a 10-day period, the officer will inspect the site to see if the issue has been abated. Normally, by this point, the issue has been resolved. If not, depending on the type of issue, an extension could be granted, or the city might fix the problem at the owner's expense. In rare cases, if all other measures have been applied, the issue will be resolved in the municipal court. Neighborhood Services officers work hard to resolve problems quickly and positively. They are here to support the community as we work together to keep our city beautiful.
Lee Summit has lots of local destinations, but where do you start? Green Street, a vibrant community space in the heart of downtown, is where Lee Summit comes together. Its 3 dynamic areas have something for everyone. Green Street Market is a modern event venue and home to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market. Green Street Lawn is a covered performance space hosting live music, family activities, and more. Green Street Grove is a mixture of gathering spaces, an immersive playground, and bold architectural features. And all 3 areas host community events year-round. So the next time you set out to enjoy the city you love, remember, meet at Green Street.
Will you please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight in service to our community. Grant us wisdom, patience, and understanding as we make decisions that affect the lives of our residents. Help us listen with open minds, lead with integrity, and work together with respect and purpose. May we always remember that leadership is a responsibility to serve others with humility and care. Bless this meeting, our city, and those who call it home. Amen.
Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call the City Council regular session number 2 meeting to order. Can I please have roll call?
Councilmember Frazier.
Present.
Councilmember Rader.
Present.
Councilmember Pryor.
Here.
Councilmember Cravens.
Here.
Councilmember Funk.
Present.
Councilmember Adkins.
Present.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Shields.
Here.
Mayor Lopez.
Here. Thank you. We will now take a motion, please, to approve the agenda as presented. The motion's been made by Councilmember Carlisle and a second by Councilmember Funk. If there's no questions, please cast your vote.
Mayor, I'm an aye.
Oh, and we have an aye.
I'm an aye also.
2 ayes. Got it? All right, motion passes 7-0. The agenda is approved. Takes us to the consent agenda. We have a motion by Councilmember Carlisle and a second by Councilmember Funk. If there's no questions, please cast your vote.
May I say something?
Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment congratulating Councilmember Pryor, who's going to join us on the Lee Summit Economic Development Council, and I believe that appointment is on our consent agenda tonight. I know that she's going to be a really excellent addition to all of our discussions there. So.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
I actually forgot about it, so thanks for reminding me.
Great, thank you. With that in mind, please cast your vote.
Mayor, I'm an aye again.
Great. All votes are in. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. Please record that vote. All right, takes us to Council Roundtable. Anybody? Yeah, Councilmember Carlisle.
I'm already on the mic, so I'm just going to say tomorrow we have a CEDC meeting at 4 p.m. here in Chambers.
Great, thank you. We'll let you slide. All right. Don't see anyone else wanting to speak, so we'll proceed with the agenda. Takes us to a couple proclamations. I know last week we had a few, not quite as many this week, so our city clerk can help us read those, and we'll meet each group separately, one at a time. So thank you.
The first proclamation will be for Public Works Week.
Got a smile.
All right. This proclamation recognizes the courage, dignity, and dedication of federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement officers who serve and protect their communities, often at a great personal risk. Oh, wrong one. I'm going to switch these two on you. How would yours? All right, let's try that again.
Okay, we're trying some new things around here.
This proclamation recognizes the essential role public works professionals play in maintaining the infrastructure, facilities, and services that support safe, sustainable, and resilient communities in Lee Summit. It honors the engineers, managers, and employees in both government and private sector who work to build, improve, and protect critical systems such as transportation, water, waste management, and public facilities that contribute to public health and quality of life. The proclamation also encourages residents and community leaders to better understand and appreciate the importance of public works programs and recognizes 2026 as the 66th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association with the theme Rooted in Service, Powered by Community.
Great, thank you. So now I, Beto Lopez, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri, do hereby proclaim May 17th through the 23rd, 2026, as National Public Works Week and urge all citizens to join with the representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health and our safety and advancing the quality of life for all of us. So thank you, Mr. Park.
Each person come and introduce themselves, or I'll pass the mic around. But yes, I appreciate the acknowledgments and recognition for public works. It includes water utilities, development services. It takes a village really to do this. Our theme is, again, rooted in service, powered by community. And all of these professionals are rooted in service. And what that means is really the foundation of a community is rooted in the infrastructure you see and don't see. You see the projects, the roads, the bridges. You don't see the utilities, the stormwater systems, the water, the sanitary sewer. You see the airports, and you see all sorts of public works infrastructure, and it's that infrastructure that makes a community go, right? It's that community and that the power of a community that's built on this foundation that we offer. So thank you very much, and I'd like to start on this end and maybe work our way down.
Sue Piles, Development Engineering Manager.
Jeff Thorne, Director of Water Utilities.
Chris Bussin, Solid Waste Superintendent.
Karen Allison, Senior Staff Engineer.
George Binger, City Engineer.
Joel Arrington, Airport Manager.
Mike Anderson, Deputy Director of Public Works Operations.
Barry Allen, Construction Manager.
Great, thank you very much. We talk a lot about our fire and police and how amazing they are for this community, but this group is amazing as well, and we should always remember that and recognize them. So enjoy your week. So thank you. We'll take a photo.
One more. Love each other. Yes. All right. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
The next one is for National Police Week. I'll start with Public Works and then I'll fix it. We'll go with this one. This proclamation recognizes the courage, dignity, and dedication of federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement officers who serve and protect their communities, often at great personal risk. It honors officers who have been killed, disabled, or injured in the line of duty and acknowledges the establishment of Peace Officers Memorial Day, a National Police Week, through Public Law 87-726. Signed by President John F. Kennedy in 1962. The proclamation also recognizes the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial as a lasting tribute to fallen officers, specifically honors the 111 law enforcement officers, including 2 from Missouri. 111, I don't know why I said 111. Law enforcement officers, including 2 from Missouri who lost their lives in the line of duty in 2025.
Thank you. So now I, Bethel Lopez, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Lee Summit, Missouri, do hereby proclaim the week of May 10th through the 16th of 2026 as National Police Week in recognition and support of law enforcement personnel and the essential mission and service they provide to their communities, and in solemn appreciation of law enforcement personnel who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. We salute and honor these heroes. Thank you.
Alex Walker here with me from our operations division, our captain. It's a week that we celebrate, but it's also a sobering week for us. 111 officers, as you heard, lost their lives in the line of duty last year, which is still way too high of a number, but thankfully it was a 25% decrease from the year prior, so it was good to see it trending in the right direction, but still far too many. I've been to Washington, D.C., to the Police Officers Memorial. I would encourage everybody to go see that. Unfortunately, I have personal friends' names on that wall, so it's really meaningful this week to me. And obviously this last summer we had an officer severely injured in the line of duty in a shooting. He's progressing, but it's been difficult, and it just is a sobering reminder of what these men and women that I have the honor of working with go through every day. So we're so thankful to be part of a supportive community that not only does things like this, but just every day this community does really wraps their arms around us and lets us know how much they appreciate what we do. So we're very thankful to work in Lee Summit. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. And we'll take a photo. But before that, I do want to acknowledge yesterday they had their annual 2026 annual awards ceremony right across the street. And I was fortunate to attend with a few of my council colleagues. And that event, I've attended it a couple of different times. And Chief already said it all, and the proclamation had a lot of detail as well, but the work they do and the messages and the award recipients from yesterday is super inspiring, and we're so grateful in Lee Summit to have, through Chief's leadership and an amazing team, do what they do for our community and keep all of us safe, so thank you again. All right, thank you very much. We will proceed. Item number 5 on the agenda is being postponed, but we will have Mayor Pro Tem Shields. Do we have to open the, okay, all right, then we will go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, don't open that.
Okay, I didn't think so. Great, I didn't think so. Yeah, if we can read the ordinance, please.
I move to continue item 2026-7523, public hearing for application PL 2025-338 and PL 2025-339, preliminary development plan, a special use permit for a convalescent nursing or retirement home, Lee Summit Senior Community, 5101 Northeast Lakewood Way, Lee Summit Senior Living Community LLC, applicant to a date certain of June 16th, 2026.
Great, thank you. The motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields, and we have a second by Councilmember Funk. If there are no questions, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. All right, takes us to public comments. And before we begin that process, I will read, just for clarification, the public comment portion of the City Council meeting is a time where the public address the council on any matter listed on the council agenda for this meeting or directly related to the operations of the City of Lee Summit, except for those matters that are subject to the public hearing requiring that testimony to be sworn. Each person wishing to provide public comments will be afforded 3 minutes to speak. Any person wishing to speak to provide handouts or information materials to the mayor or the council shall provide these materials to the city clerk, who then will distribute it to us as council. And I will also add, before we have a couple of people that want to speak, that I ask that you please do address us as council. If you do have questions, please do not ask staff. we will wait till after your comments are completed, and then we will ask staff the appropriate questions. So appreciate that. Thank you. So first off, we have Ms. Ballenweider.
Teresa Vollenweider, 5201 Northeast Maybrook Road. First off, I want to ask if anybody that has this district where it's 1700 Northeast Tudor Road, if you'll recall, this property was Ms. Breeden's, and it was going to be combined and rezoned from R1 to all ag. And I've been watching and I still haven't seen a plat. So technically speaking, I do not think that rezoning has taken place. And I want those people who have that district to start checking to see what happened to this plat. Where is the plat for this combination of properties, parcels? Should have been done, should have been recorded. I can't find it. And the road should still be 30 feet wide. I'm going to start off, there's so many things I find very frustrating. This is the Maybrook team: Mark Dunning, Ryan Elam, David Bushirk, Josh Johnson, Bob Burns. There's more of them. But I point out on this that Mark Dunning claims that he had made clear to my neighbor, Stephanie Mullins, that the city would not be involved in any matters that may involve disputes over private property lines, but will only be taking any enforcement actions with regard to any encroachments or other matters related to the right of way, and she understood. This is January 4th of 2022. What happened between then and 11/25/22? Well, there was this. And from what I gather, David Bushirk came up with this. This, again, is on an unsigned, unsealed document that Bob Anderson came up with. Was not to be used for any purposes like this, but was used. So the neighbor puts on it.
Thank you, Ms. Vollenweider.
And then, of course, what happened on 11/22/2022, and then 11/25/22. At some point, it no longer was a civil matter. What happened? People get new teeth?
Thank you, ma'am.
Money? Teeth? What was it?
Next, we have Mr. Chip Floyd.
Mayor, council, city manager. First, the camera angle. I do realize that more men have walked on the moon than people who actually care about this camera angle jazz. I know that. If I really wanted my face on the screen, I would set up my own camera right here. but I don't. I care because I see this as an arbitrary weaponization of a public process born out of jealousy and fragility, spitting on the transparency that so many of you ran on, and surviving the previous administration because the leadership and decisiveness required to fix it is not present in this room. And that's embarrassing. It's recently gotten even sillier, and I strongly disagree with the disposition. But, like I said, the moonwalkers outnumber the concerned, so I shan't opine further. Second, at least I got replies to my questions. Not everybody replied, but some did. You know who you are, and I thank you for that. I can't make you. I can only rely on your pledges of transparency, engagement, and communication. Time will tell. Third, I still don't think I've made any enemies here. If I have an enemy, I'm not aware of it. I don't use personal attacks, but I do attack what you do in your public capacity because that is fair. Sometimes I get heated and I often get sarcastic, but that is my way and that is my right. Fourth, let's have a council-sponsored block party or some such. I'm serious. Some sort of event where people can come, have food, meet their government, meet and greet type deal. That's a serious proposition. I'm just throwing it out there. I'll donate the first $100, and you have my word on that. Also, I want to throw in that we can try, Mayor, if you would consider this, moving comments further toward the front of the meeting. I think that would drive engagement. Just an idea. Finally, to all of the 22 people who will see this video and these comments, please spread the word to get involved. Come to these meetings, speak your mind, and redress your government. It is your birthright, and it too is very fragile. Protect it. Done.
Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask, how long does it take for a plat to be recorded? Or has that specific plat been recorded? Do you know?
Good evening, Shannon McGuire, Assistant Director of Planning, Plan Services. We do have a minor plat application in that is under current review. So depending on the comments under that first review and the response time for them to make any corrections, that could take anywhere from 30 to 45 days typically. So, but it's in the hands of the applicant at this point.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. All right.
I would also like to say, if anyone knows of a way to get people to the meeting and get people more engaged, I would love it, because I love an engaged community. And we have a pretty engaged community, but we could always be more engaged. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. We will proceed with the agenda. It takes us to item number 7A. We have a couple presentations tonight. First one is a conceptual economic development incentive request for O'Reilly Senior Living Community, 5101 Northeast Lakewood Way. O'Reilly Development LLC is the applicant. I assume we'll have Mr. Bushek first.
Good evening, David Bushek, Economic Development Counsel to the city. This is a conceptual presentation, and I will be speaking second, and we'll have the applicant speak first, and they are here.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Kurt Peterson here on behalf of the applicant. Yes, sir.
Excuse me 1 second.
That's okay.
My screen is off. I'm going to get IT to... I don't know what I did. Thank you, appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I just had to see what you were going to put up on the screen.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
As I was saying, I'm here on behalf of the applicant tonight. The applicant is a developer, O'Reilly Development. With me is Eric Wallish with O'Reilly, they're in the back. And I also have our operator, which is Arrow, operates all our facilities, and Tim Moore is the Director of Operations that's sitting next to Eric in the back. So just a quick roadmap so you know where we're going. Talk a little bit more about O'Reilly. Look at the senior housing demand here in Lee Summit in the area, the project site, the proposed project for that site, address the public incentive request that's before you in this conceptual, and then end with what's most important, which is why we think and contend that this is a win for the citizens of Lee Summit. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. That's for you to figure out and determine. So, and then of course, at the end, listen to your feedback so we know whether this is something that we should continue down the road to try to secure ultimate approval. But let's start with O'Reilly. Who is O'Reilly? O'Reilly is a development company. They're based in Springfield, Missouri. They have an expertise in senior living facilities. Our focus today is just that, but I will also say they develop student housing, multifamily, they do historic preservation, and other types of development. But again, tonight, they have a great expertise and track record in senior development, like this project. When they develop, they are full service. They handle design, they handle building it, and then they handle through their operator, operating the facility with excellence. They have one experience that I've talked to many of you know it. It's the Princeton. It was a kind of pre-pandemic construction project that came online just at the wrong time, but it did, and it has a great reputation here in town. It's over on 50 east of Ranson. That is a little look at who O'Reilly is. Now, senior housing demand, I often get nods, and so I speed this up because I think we all know from personal experience and from reading in the press that there is an extraordinary demand for senior living, not only in Lee Summit and the county and the state, but in the entire country. So I have some stats up on the screen that I'll let you look at on your own. I know this was in your packet, but the takeaways, the thesis is we need more senior housing units, and we need it at all types, assisted living, independent living, skilled, memory care, everything, and we need it at all price points. A little more specifics getting into the data for those that are into the numbers. The numbers are really quantifying the unmet need. I'm going to give you some official numbers. They're official because they come from the Certificate of Need process, or CON. When you hear that thrown around, you got to get a CON in certain states like Missouri for certain types of senior. Here, this is a Certificate of Need facility for the assisted living and the memory care portion of the overall project, which has been awarded for this site, should we be able to get approval from the city and move forward. By the way, I'm going to give you some numbers that have to do with assisted living and memory care, but I, in my personal experience and with other projects and just living here in town, independent living could blow the roof off in terms of the numbers that are needed. And that's not even in the numbers I'm about to say. So with that, the official numbers say that within 15 miles of the site, that assisted living and memory care are short more than 1,200, they say beds as the term, but places for somebody to live, which is a huge number. The unofficial numbers are way higher. And again, this leaves out independent living. Jackson County has the highest need in the entire state of Missouri. And in case what comes to your mind immediately is, Kurt, you just said 15 miles. 15 miles is just not Lee Summit. Do we really have this unmet demand in Lee Summit? And the answer is, first, that's a great question. And the answer is, you're right, that stat did go beyond the limits of Lee Summit. But the demand and the lack of supply for places for our seniors to live and stay in Lee Summit is huge. Amazingly, if you look back just a decade, you'll find that with all this unmet demand, you have some renovations and expansions at John Knox, which is important. You have the Princeton, which was a pre-pandemic construction project by O'Reilly. And then you have Raintree Village, which is, again, is amazing, down on 150, which was delivered in 2025. There should be way more activity to meet this demand in Lee Summit, and there hasn't been. Now, maybe more telling, we actually just went back and methodically pulled this statistic, so no one has heard this outside our team. This, again, goes to the point that we have a major unmet demand in the city itself. So going back to the Princeton, which is, again, the project that was delivered just as the pandemic was getting started, approximately 75% of all of our residents at the Princeton came from within generally single-family homes from within the city. I thought that was a really, and I went through all the data to pull that stat. It was actually about 73%, but approximately 75%. So leaving this point, hopefully feel like it's salient and well-supported, which is we have an unmet demand in Lee Summit for our seniors. So let's look at the project site before we get into the project itself. We are up at 470 and Bolin in the northeast quadrant. It is 12 acres that you can see in red, just to the kind of northwest of that lake. The transition here from we're having a conceptual presentation on a public-private partnership, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about land use for a second because it's relevant. You can see sort of the nice transition from single-family housing to the north, and then to this use, seniors, and then as you work your way down to the interchange, and then south of that you have commercial businesses and things like that. So a nice sort of perfectly planned transition in the planning world. The project itself is going to be a mix of independent living units, two types, 104 units that will be, if you can see on the screen, you can see the site plan. So the independent living units you can see are here in this portion of the overall project. And there's 104 there, but we also have another type of independent living to offer, which are 2-bedroom villas that will be over here in the northwest part. Then we have 48 assisted living units, which is a higher level of care, as you know, and that's this portion. And then finally, we have our highest level of care, which are the memory units, and we have 20 of those, which is this portion of the building on the screen here. So it gives you a sense of the site plan and the project that's being proposed. Just to go through these slides quickly, because I think it's important to understand the quality and the operations. So again, I won't read all these words, but you'll get a sense. This gives you some visuals and some description of the high level of unit amenities inside when you live in these units. And then also the community amenities. You'll see a few other pictures that always make me smile in a minute because it's super relevant. This is getting seniors the opportunity to come out of their single-family home where many of them are by themselves, isolated, unable to go around, and putting them in a community where there was all sorts of community activities and amenities. You're seeing some of the amenities on the screen here. It allows seniors to age in place with these levels of care that I've just described, which can be really incredible to come in as somebody that's in independent living and know you have a long-term community that you can stay in as your needs increase. This is an award-winning both developer, owner, and operator when it comes to places to work. You can see the awards they've received, but not just to work there, also to live there. The same thing, awards for their facilities as a resident. They really believe in community engagement. It goes back to part of the allure and the benefit to our community and having a facility like Princeton or a facility like this, should it be supported, is that it is constantly looking for ways to support the seniors and activities, but also to support the community. So this helps seniors and children. This is actually two schools interacting with seniors living at the Princeton. So we picked those because it's Lee Summit, but this is what O'Reilly believes in, and Arrow as their operator at all their facilities, community engagement. And then last, just a few pictures just to show, like I said, not making it up. There's lots going on in these communities. By the way, that is chair volleyball, and apparently is very, very popular, I'm told. Chair volleyball and very competitive. That is two different, you can see the Madison, which I think Madison is Kansas City, Missouri, against the Princeton. So you even have the jerseys. That brings us to the proposed public-private partnership. There's one tool that this project needs to be able to move forward. It's Chapter 100. There's two components to that. The first is the fixed pilots. The request would be a 50% real property tax abatement for 10 years. The chart on the screen shows what those numbers would look like. And you can see this would be year one after construction, a $266,000 payment, and then every other year increases with an inflator for a total of payments that would be made by this project over the first 10 years of just over $2.8 million. The second of the two benefits is sales tax exemption. This means that a certificate would be provided so that at the beginning of construction when materials are ordered, Missouri sales and use tax would not be owed. You'd be exempt. And what's highlighted on the screen is the total benefit to the project, which is really helpful, but then also the estimate of what that would mean from the city. The city's portion contributing to that would be the $237,000, which makes up 23% of the overall amount. And again, this is not the city writing a check. This is an exemption from Missouri sales and use tax that would otherwise be paid. So in total, when you add up that sales tax exemption savings and also that real property tax abatement savings, that adds up to about 8.93% of the overall investment O'Reilly is making. I know we always use that metric. Mr. Bushek probably will provide a slide that puts that in context, but that is on the lower end of the scale. But it is exactly what this project needs, not more, not less, to be able to move forward, given some of the extraordinary site costs. If you've been to this site, we'll have serious retaining walls and grade issues, and then also just dealing with the gap between costs and rents that can be paid in the market that have kept, like I said, over this last decade, almost any other projects from moving forward. This exact request, this 8.93%, will make this project feasible and start construction this year. I want to end with what I always say is the most important part. It's what you will make your ultimate, not tonight, but feedback tonight and in the future make a decision on, which is, is this a net benefit to your constituents, to the taxpayers in Lee Summit? I always start by looking to the policy to say, is this even in an area where the council has indicated that this type of tool should be considered at least? It is. It's in the targeted area named the I-470 North area, as the arrow indicates on the screen. When it comes to job creation and taxes, this will have approximately 450 construction jobs involved. In terms of permanent jobs, it'd be in the range of 50 to 55 full-time equivalent employees, many of whom are nurses, that will work at this facility. There'll be excise tax paid with this project. There'll be the parks fee that will be paid with this project, all inuring to the benefit of the city. When it comes to real property tax, today, this entire piece of ground is generating approximately $50 in taxes per year. During the proposed Chapter 100 that I put on the screen, that table before, the total amount from year 1 to year 10 would range from $258,000 to $290,000 annually. And then after that, the estimate is it would go to about $600,000 of payments in year 11. Wanted to end with this because honestly, it really does. This is what gets me most excited about this type of project, and there just hasn't been enough of them. We retain our active seniors. So it provides independent living for seniors rather than sending them to, I mean, you can name your own cities, but I think of places with new projects, Overland Park, Prairie Village, or where it doesn't matter, wherever, that are providing independent living facilities. We lose them. And you probably lose them forever because people like to age in place, and many of them probably will not come back. So this allows seniors to stay in Lee Summit and allows them to age in place. And then, and including the active seniors, the folks in independent living are spending money in the city. They are helping our Lee Summit businesses. And they have, many of them do have disposable income to do that at a time in their life when they can. Not saving for, kids' education or something like that. And then lastly, just over my career, I've found this, I'm gonna do 20 seconds on it, and I wanna do 20 minutes on it. Dramatic pause. I think this is that important. We have single-family housing with older people that we love. It's my grandparents, pick where you're at in life, it's parents, whatever, that are in their homes and they don't know where to go. They don't wanna leave Lee Summit. They want to stay in their general area, that's their city, but they don't have a good place to go for independent living. They certainly don't have maybe a place to go for a continuum of care where they could stay. And what this does is allows them to leave that single family home and the neighborhood starts to turn over. That's what I get excited about. It does. Younger people move in, they care a lot, it's their whatever, maybe it's their first home or what have you, they put money into it and it turns over the neighborhood for a whole nother generation of growth and excitement. And by the way, provides affordable, this is what I mean, it goes on and on, it provides affordable housing in many cases for people that are looking for their first home. That's what happens when we make senior projects like this of high quality happen. So with that, I'm really excited about it. We'll keep going, but Mayor I know you have a long agenda, but I would like to stay around to see as we get feedback if you have any questions now or later.
Thank you. We'll have Mr. Bushek come up, and then we'll open it up for questions after that.
All right. David Bushek, Economic Development Counsel for the city. First, a few procedural items for the full city council, but in particular for the new elected officials. This is a conceptual presentation that we're considering. This is not a formal public hearing. You're not being requested to provide any formal vote tonight. Under the city's economic development policy, something that the city decided to do many years ago was give developers the opportunity to come to the city council and present their request for incentives to receive feedback from you so they don't spend a significant amount of time and money trying to advance the incentive request knowing that it's not going to proceed. So the city council many years ago added to the economic development incentive policy this conceptual presentation that we're hearing tonight so you can provide feedback to the applicant. And the feedback that you provide, it's not binding. You're free to make whatever decision you feel is appropriate if this project moves forward and you, when we get to the public hearing, the formal public hearing, you're always free to vote however you feel is appropriate at that time. But we have a pretty good track record of, through these conceptual presentations, providing good, solid, non-binding feedback to applicants so they have a sense of where the city council stands with an incentive request. That's the purpose of the conceptual presentation tonight. So they are asking for your feedback, and that is common for the council to provide non-binding feedback. So I will get into the specifics here. So starting with the timeline analysis, during the construction period, they're requesting sales and use tax exemption on construction materials for this project, which consists of 187 units. So they will receive a benefit from that construction period if you grant the sales tax exemption. And then for the 10-year period, they're requesting 50% abatement. 50% pilots, which means the 50% of the property taxes flow through as normal to the taxing districts, and 50% would be abated. The per door calculation based on the total number of units is $1,426 per door per year would be the calculation, and that will become relevant in a moment when I show you some other data. Benefit to the taxing districts. My analysis of the property valuation last year is that the total taxes are about $87. I think he had 50. I looked it up recently. It's a nominal amount of taxes this property is producing today. Then, if you grant this request and the project is constructed, the pilot payments that this project would make during the first year after it's in operation is this amount in this column. The city's portion is highlighted in green. And the city's portion at this point with this array is about 15% of the total tax bill. And then over 10 years, this is the amount that would be paid. This is the raw dollars, not net present value. So this is the actual dollars that would be paid to all the taxing districts. And you see the city's portion of that benefit if that does, if the incentive is granted. The value of this request to the developer, it's a $43.2 million project. The net present value of the tax abatement, the 50%, of this number, over a period of 10 years, that valuation to the developer is about $2 million, which is 4.8% of this total project cost. And the value of the sales tax exemption during the construction period is about $1 million, which is 2.4% of the total project cost. So the total benefit to the developer from this incentive to provide an apples-to-apples comparison to other projects is about 7.2% of the total construction costs. And then at the bottom, we have the impact to the city. The sales and use tax exemption, as we've discussed, that's about 24% of the number up top. And the real property tax abatement, the city's portion is 15% of the tax bill. So that's the impact to the city if you grant this incentive request. This is then the simple summary of this incentive request. Both tools will use Chapter 100, that's the request. Sales tax exemption on construction materials at 100% just during the construction period results in the benefit that I just showed you, 2.4% of project costs. And then the real property tax abatement at 50% for 10 years results in this net present value benefit that I just showed you. So this is just a re-summary of the data that I just showed you. This is the benefit to the developer from this request. This next slide, this is some data that we track and this is mostly apartments, but it's a data point that is somewhat useful in this evaluation. So I will walk through all of this. This is the first time some of you may see this, and we may look at it again depending on what other projects come forward. But I have presented this data set to the City Council in the past, and I'll walk through this. These are the projects that the City Council has approved a Chapter 100 incentive for, mostly apartment projects. Market value is what the county assigns as the value of the property. So market value is what the county says this is the actual value of the property in a free market type transaction. That's the county's assessment of what the valuation was in '21, and then we updated last year. The most recent data point is the North Point Apartments at $66 million, And then as you move on through the chart, the next column is the assessed value. This number is 19% of this number. The calculation process for property taxes, the county assigns the market value, and depending on the type of the property, the county calculates the assessed value, and that results in the tax bill. So the assessed value times the property tax levy rates that I just showed you on the previous slide results in the tax bill for each of these parcels. And then we divide by the number of units in each of these complexes so we can calculate the taxes per unit. So the output of this top part of the chart is what are the taxes per unit for these projects if they were on the tax rolls. If you had not provided abatement, what would the taxes be? This is important because about 5 years ago, the county told us how they value these projects. When it comes to residential projects, they attempt to value the project at 90% of the original construction cost. They technically evaluate property based on the net operating income approach, but since there's no operating income for a new project, they've also told us that they attempt to achieve about 90% of the total cost. So what that means is the county tries to make this value be about 90% of what it costs to build the project. That's what the county's told us. And they have essentially carried out what they've told us because these taxes per unit are much higher than what we saw in the past. So the county is carrying out the valuation of these new projects based on what they told us. Then we can look at this data set down here. These are the pilots per unit that the city council approved for each of these projects. And in some cases, because these properties are on the tax rolls now, or they have a valuation as I discussed up here, we can compare the pilots that each of these projects are paying to what the taxes would actually be if they were on the tax rolls. And then we have one unique project here. This is the apartment project in the downtown. That was a TIF plan, but we calculated the taxes per unit just as an additional data point. So this column here shows you what the city council has approved on a per door basis for previous projects. And so this is information that you can use in your evaluation of the previous number that I just showed you. Their proposed pilot is about 14, I think it's 1426 on the previous page, and the comparison would be this column here. If you want to look at what the city council has done for these other projects in the past to compare to the request that you're seeing tonight. Then this next table, this table summarizes most of the incentives that the city council has approved since 2020. This is the wall of data that we've talked about many times in the past. This tallies up all the incentivized projects, and the data set up here, I won't go through all of these, but I'll show you the type of information that we're tracking here. The year, acreage, total project cost, total amount of reimbursement, and the total percentage of benefit to the company as the benchmark to compare to that 7.2% that I just showed you on the first slide. So if you want to do the apples to apples comparison between projects, this would be the column to look at for each of these projects. And then the graphic over here shows you in kind of a graphic form, a bar graph, what that benefit to each project looks like, which is a calculation of this number over here. And then we get to the summary at the bottom of this table. We have the averages for each type of incentive that the city council has approved historically: tax increment financing, land clearance for redevelopment authority, CIDs, transportation development districts, and Chapter 100, which is what we're considering tonight. So if you look at all of this data historically, the average is down here, the average for your comparison tonight. The average of the Chapter 100 projects that the council has approved in the past, the valuation benefit compared to total project cost is about 9.2% as compared to the 7.2% that this project is proposing. That's the apples to apples comparison that I described to you. There's a lot of other information on here, a lot of things we could talk about, but the salient point of this table is to give you the summary so you get a general sense of where this incentive request fits into the other incentive requests that the city council has approved in the past. There may be other questions you have, other points about the project. One of the things that is, I suppose, unfortunate in the sequence of events tonight, there was the intention to hold the zoning hearing first so you'd hear all about the project and then consider the incentive request, but we haven't had the zoning hearing. So I will stop there. That is my summary and explanation of what their incentive request is, and I'd be happy to answer questions or listen to your discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, we have some questions. Councilmember Pryor, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you guys typically retain ownership of the facility?
Councilmember Pryor, why, yes, and I actually pulled the data so we could share that. So the business model and preferences for long-term hold, sometimes you've heard this before because it happens to be true, that sometimes you have equity members that get in a pinch and they need liquidity. So there's been a few of those, but overall, O'Reilly has built and has operated 17 projects like this, and they've only sold 4, so less than 25% in their history. But the business model is, yes, just like the Princeton.
That's good to know. You just see the ones that sell a lot, and those typically go downhill pretty quick.
Not the business model.
Okay. Do you want our thoughts right now too, I guess, since we're not in a public hearing?
That'd be great.
Overall, I think I'm in support of this. It does give me a little pause, the incentive, because I know it will generate 911 calls, but I know that you guys can't proceed without the incentive. But that part does give me pause, but overall, I know this is needed, and I am in support of it as of right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rader.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Bushak. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I kind of want to simplify. So it's $1,426 per door.
Correct.
That in pilots.
At the outset of the project, yes.
Okay. And so what does the city of Lee Summit get from that $1,426? Do they get that entire amount, or does part of that go back to the developer?
So the 1426 pilot would result in this amount to the taxing districts. And then when we apply the taxing district's tax levies, this is the amount that the city would receive. So the answer in the first year to your question is this number, and over 10 years, it's this number.
So we're getting $41,000 the first year.
Correct.
That comes back to our taxing districts.
But this is just Lee Summit, that 41,000.
Okay, okay. And then, oh gosh, so what would we get? I think you had a graph. What would we get if there was no incentive?
In this case, it's a really simple answer. It's double these numbers because the abatement request is 50%. So these numbers here represent 50% of what the property taxes would be. So if this project were to actually develop with no incentive, it would be double these amounts here.
Okay, so let's do the first year. So it would be double the 41,000.
Correct. So
But first year.
The city's portion would be double that amount.
Okay. Let's see. I made a comment earlier, I think this year, I don't remember, about these concept presentations. I don't like them because I believe it gives the developer an assumption, and we just don't know enough about this project. So at this time, I probably wouldn't move forward on this since we really don't know enough about it for me to make a decision on whether I think we should, plus the fact that just the incentives in themselves and how much we've given away. And so I think we need to be a little more diligent about that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. So I wanted to go over first just a couple of terminology things. So a pilot, that stands for payment in lieu of taxes.
Correct, payment in lieu of taxes.
So basically, because of the structure where the city takes the legal ownership, the entire taxes get abated, but then they enter into a structure where they pay half of what the anticipated tax bill would be, right?
Yes, that's correct. And this is probably a good discussion point for the city council, but also for our new elected officials also. The mechanics of this, simplified, the city takes ownership of the property that the city owns, city doesn't pay taxes. So the city's sales tax exemption is extended to the developer during the construction period for this benefit, and then the city owns it for the 10-year period, leases it back to the company. The lease contains a number of protections for the city, so it essentially looks and functions just like a private project, but the city owns the dirt, the city technically owns the building, and then the lease provides the protections for the city. And during that 10-year period, taxes are zero, and then contractually, that's the payment in lieu of taxes that you're asking about. They're contractually bound to make the 50% pilot every year, and then the city administers that.
And in this case, it would be a fixed pilot, so it's not 50% of whatever the county says the tax bill would be. It's just this number with the escalator, right?
Correct. We're looking at a fixed pilot structure.
So,
and that provides certainty to the applicant.
Right, so part of the incentive or part of why this is attractive to developers, not just the abatement in taxes, but also knowing that Jackson County won't go insane and triple their taxes, that they, for that 10-year period, are protected from those fluctuations that we have seen in some cases.
Yes, that's exactly right. When we, back in, I'd say 2018, when the county did a significant valuation jump in 2019, then again in 23, one of the things that we heard consistently from the development community is the desire for certainty in their tax structure. And I'm sure the applicant can talk to you about that tonight also, but having that certainty during the first 10 years is often critical to a project getting out of the ground.
Okay, so that's helpful just to understand kind of what they're going at. But based on that other data that you showed us, you think that this is a good estimate of what those taxes would be based on how other similar properties are being assessed by the county?
Yes, it probably wouldn't be precisely that number, but I think that's probably.
And I know we've heard from in these kind of presentations before that those numbers may be a little bit inflated because if they're in an abatement, then they're not necessarily appealing the taxes, whereas if it wasn't an abatement, they might be trying to appeal and get those reevaluated. Is that correct, or does that not apply to that data set?
So in some cases, and this is a bit of a debate that we've had with some applicants, they come forward and they request abatement at a certain level. And then our calculation is, my calculation, the staff's calculation is, here's what the impact would be based on our evaluation of what we think the county would do with this property. And then the applicant often counters by saying, well, that's not accurate, because if this were a free market situation and there weren't incentives, we would be appealing that valuation to knock it down. So we often get into this sort of unresolvable debate at this point. Where would the valuation actually be? This is my assessment, and we've evaluated this many
So based on your
times.
professional judgment and the best data that we have available, this is what you think is correct? Okay. And then you talked a little bit about the net present value of that abatement. So that's basically the time value of money, that if they had all that abated value, that 2.8 million today, it'd be worth more to them than the fact that it's strung out over several years. They aren't accessing that full value today, so it's just not worth quite as much to them, right?
Yes, precisely, to really highlight the point. 6% net present value, so that assumes that we just use 6% inflation and then 6% interest rate in the net present value calculation. The difference is this number, 2.8 versus 2 million. The net present value of this revenue stream from 10 years is this number here, and that's a pretty common calculation.
Right, because if they had that money cash in hand, they could invest it in anything and have more money over the course, or in this case, they're needing to borrow money to do what they're doing and kind of paying it off over time.
That's right. The company will have interest costs to build the project, and then inflation decreases the value of the money over time, which explains the difference between this 2.8 and this 2 million.
Right, okay. So that's, when you're calculating those percentages, you're not doing the full face value of the incentive over time. You're doing like what today's dollars are worth.
The value of that revenue stream over 10 years calculated in today's dollars.
Okay. I still occasionally have trouble wrapping my head around that one, so I think it's always good to go over again. As far as this project goes, I think the project itself I really like, right? I think senior housing is very important, aging in place is very important, having those opportunities for people in our community, freeing up those, single-family homes for young families, so that, someone who doesn't want to keep maintaining their 4-bedroom home and wants to have something smaller maintenance provided but still near their family, like everybody can win in that scenario. So I like that. I guess what I want to understand, though, is like beyond that kind of generalized public benefit, specifically why this incentive is needed. So is there extraordinary infrastructure costs? I know it was kind of mentioned that there's some retaining walls and grading needing to be done, but are there other extraordinary infrastructure or public infrastructure needed? Is this just a pure gap in the profitability that doesn't get the ROI they need, the return on investment, without this, or why is this being requested?
So in this case, it's not public improvements. It's not being driven by public improvements, something that we'll talk about extensively in the next presentation. I think in this case, the simplest summary is to make the project financially viable for the developer, and I'd ask them to come up and give you a more detailed answer to that.
Thank you.
That question.
Councilmember Shields, that's exactly right. It's both. One, it's approximately $1.5 million in additional cost over a normal greenfield site, given the extreme grades we have in retaining walls, like I mentioned. And then on top of that, it is truly the gap. It's the same gap that Raintree Village, which Again, I didn't go into great detail, but the project that was approved and delivered in 2025 had this exact same structure. All the numbers and percentages were exactly the same. So they faced the same situation then that we're facing now, which is rents don't keep up with the costs, and you literally can't get your equity, you can't close your loan to move forward. So the short answer again is it's both of those factors play a role here.
Absent this incentive, what would the return on investment be, or would it be negative?
It wouldn't be negative, but it would be below. We just went over all this. It would be below what you need to be able to get your financing and your equity. So it's not literally like you lose money, but you can't get to the return to actually be able to get to the place where you build it.
Are you able to share that number or no?
It's like, is it leveraged? Is it unleveraged? I don't have it memorized, but.
But basically, if you're an investor looking at a project, well, I could put my money into treasuries and make this percentage. You have to give me more than that to make it worth it, to induce me to take the risk and do this. Is the
They have
basic
hurdles.
thought process.
Everything you just said is right.
Yeah.
They have hurdles that if they don't get over, why they're not going to send the capital. You need capital to flow to a project. It won't flow to the project unless the return
Okay,
is
so
above the alternatives.
we talk sometimes about like the but-for test, but for this incentive,
Correct.
this project doesn't happen.
Yes, and I could unpack that more, given other things we have going on in the market if we need to, but yes is absolutely the answer.
And then a question to staff, kind of following up on one of Councilmember Pryor's question about, or comments about EMS demand. Do you see significant EMS calls from a site like this, and is that something that we have the capacity to handle? How do you think about that?
Mike Snyder, Fire Chief. On average, it's about 1.5 calls per unit is what we experience in similar facilities. With the ambulance in the district that it would specifically affect, they're towards the bottom of our call volume currently. I would tell you in general, the system can handle it. It just depends on the location. This just happens to be in a location that is lower volume.
So in general, the system can handle it?
Correct.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't
Yes.
sure if I heard you correctly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mayor, Councilmember Shields, that's such an important point. May I elaborate on that? Because there's an incredible story here with respect to exactly how O'Reilly does things. They have found empirically over 17 projects they've done with Arrow sitting in the back, operating each time, that when they focus, and they do, in everything they do to make sure they have preventative and keep people from making calls, and then when there are calls, they're less expensive, as compared to when people are still in their single-family homes, it's dramatic. And here's what I mean, just some examples that came straight from them. And it's funny, I have an expert that was just at the podium that I think will nod his head. If you have a choice to go on an EMS call to see a senior at a facility like the Princeton or this facility if it moves forward, versus going to a single-family home, which oftentimes will be somebody that is on their own, cannot unlock the door in many cases. You have to knock, you have to have a forced entry. You don't know their medical history when you get there. You don't really know what's going on oftentimes because there can be confusion and things like that. It's a totally different ball. It's harder. Again, I've had the expert here, but it's harder in a lot of ways I've heard, and it can be more expensive and time consuming. And not only that, but then, and remember, 75% of the people that will live here will actually be coming from that environment in the city that we're bringing into a great facility like this. But to end on that, it's not only that comparison of it's more efficient, better for the seniors, and less costly when an EMS visit comes to the facility as opposed to their single-family home. They have a provider that they partner with called Empower Me. And Empower Me is all about prevention. And if we needed to, we could do we've done a whole presentation before just on Empower Me, but it's meant to prevent the calls from ever being made. And the statistics, I'm skipping through some details. We could go into it, but I'll start with just the statistic. The clinical data shows that the hospitalization rates, the need to go pick someone up and take them to the hospital, decreases 52% with this method. So summing up again, two answers about this. We'd much rather have our seniors in Lee Summit in a place like this. It will reduce the load and make the overall care better. And then second of all, we will prevent the calls to begin with, at least a huge portion of them, by this Empower Me and just the strategy empirically that Arrow has put in place here and the other communities that we're in. So thank you for letting me.
That's a really good answer, thank you.
An aside really fast at Councilmember Rader, if you don't mind. Just talking about not knowing that much about it. The site plan and the details that I provided, is what was, and you wouldn't necessarily know this, you can't know everything that's happening, but Planning Commission gave a unanimous recommendation. So this body hasn't heard it because there was a notice issue. We would have otherwise been doing it tonight. I just wanted to give you some level of comfort that this is designed and everything I've talked about has already been through Planning Commission. So just wanted to note that. Thank you.
I guess the last couple things I'll say is, one, I think the questions I had have been answered well, and I would be comfortable looking at this moving forward. And two, I really appreciate these conceptual presentations. Obviously, we'll need to see full details. We'll need to go through all of the PDP process, which we'll do later. We'll need to see more detail on the final version of the incentive package. That'll come back to us. But I think it is really helpful for me to have this initial talk through before things are set in stone, to be able to really dig into a project and understand it better and give some initial feedback. And I think it's helpful for our development community to be able to get this kind of high-level feedback from us because to go through one of these projects is very expensive, to do all of the detailed design work, to do all of the studies that you need to do. There's a lot that goes into that, and I hate to see someone spin their wheels, waste their time, waste their money if it's something that's not going to move forward, that if there's just really not the appetite for it in the city. So I think this is a really helpful way for us to all have a chance to discuss that before more happens. So obviously the work still needs to be done. Those details need to be figured out and fully vetted and finally reviewed by the council. But at this point, I'm comfortable with you moving on to that next phase, and I appreciate the answers and the feedback tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Funk.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Shields got a lot of my questions answered. Do you know, I guess, the gap? What's the gap there of the return on investment with and without the incentive? I see all these guys in the back. Somebody knows that number.
So my suggestion would be that's something that, because there's a bunch of different metrics, we have return on cost, we have leveraged 10-year return, we have all these metrics, so it probably, we could get into that right now, but I think that's something when it goes to Councilmember Shields' idea of over the next coming weeks, as we have to get into all the details, we get sit down with any council member that wants to go through that, certainly with professional staff, Councilmember Funk, and get into those details, because we do have them, and we can go through those.
Okay. I think this is a needed product. I know we've had the conversation that I'm going to push real hard when we get to the final stages that this group, Arrow, the operator over at Princeton, good, bad feedback on that project, that we are really, really, really focused on local contractors if we move forward with an incentive.
In fact, just the fact that we had a quick conversation about that, and that was a priority for you and probably others on council, we have actually prepared an RFP that we're doing, that we're sending out to. So we did a pre-screening process to go through and try to find qualified businesses in Lee Summit that could do this. And we're going to send out an RFP. We are waiting, just to be totally candid, till after tonight. We want to see if we're moving forward, but then we're going to do that. And it started with your comment and a comment that Councilmember Rader said that was very similar.
Sure. I think I would be in support of seeing this move forward. I'd really like to know what that gap is, if we could tighten up the incentive. And really the hard focus for me moving forward on some of these larger incentives with people that want to invest in our community and they want to ask for these is we have an EDC, we have a chamber. RFPs are great, but those are great people to talk to too. A lot of people invest in this community, and I think it would be important that they have conversations with them as well.
That's a good point.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilmember Frazier.
Just a couple of points of clarification for me. On the slide that you have now, we've talked a lot about the benefit to the city or the taxes to the city of Lee Summit, but I want to confirm that also this is the Blue Springs School District area as opposed to LSR 7, correct?
Exactly right.
Okay. And can you go back to the slide that talked about the certificate of need? And I think the number was 1,218, the need. It was early on. I apologize, I didn't see the slide number. My question is, does that include the proposed 187?
I know when I said it, I just have to find right. Did I put it on the screen? There it is.
There you
right
go.
there.
Ooh, I remember that number. So within 15 miles, either way of the site, the deficiency numbers are 1,218. Is that just for assisted and memory care?
Exactly.
And not,
That's
okay.
right. Yes, ma'am.
So regarding for the independent living, those are in fact apartments, right? So just curious.
Age-restricted apartments with house cleaning and food, in our case.
Exactly. So I was just asking for a friend here. Is it 55? But it's not necessarily 55 for the assisted and memory care. That's probably more diagnosis dependent.
Everything you said is right.
Okay. All right, thank you. And you proposed, I'm curious about the timeline. So if today, and you get started, say this year, what's the build look like?
Let's think of this project. I believe this was, let's see if I get it right. I think this was a 20-month?
Okay.
20 to 24? Yeah,
Okay.
20 to 24 months, depending on weather and things like that.
And I probably need to go back and do a little bit of research on this. Does your business model include, and the word I'm going to use is subsidized or any income dependent, like a sliding fee for independent?
I think the
Living.
simple answer is no, but I'll always make sure that
Okay.
I'm right. Yeah, come on.
My name's Eric Wallish. It's ERICWALESH, 9100 West 158th Street. Don't hold it against me. That's Overland Park. Could you reiterate your question? I don't totally understand.
So I'm just wondering if, and I'm just speaking now for the independent living, sometimes there are, subsidized sounds as such a negative word, but income dependent, so just a sliding fee scale for a certain percentage.
I think if you're referring to, like say in Denver, they have what are called set-asides.
Mm-hmm.
You have to provide a certain, 80% of the median income. No, we do not provide that.
Okay. And then my final question or comment is actually for the city. What will be helpful, I think, for me is you listed all of the incentives. What I would like to see is the expiration date for those. So the chart, because the chart says, 7% or that sort of thing, but, did it start in 2015? Is it going to expire next year or last year, that sort of thing? So going forward, that will be helpful because we know what to look for, what's coming.
Just to be clear, to make sure I'm following what you're saying, ending dates.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yes,
with you.
absolutely.
That may be challenging in some cases because some of them, there's a projected ending period, but we don't know precisely, but I understand the sentiment of where you're, I understand what you're
Okay,
asking
projected
for.
is fine too, so we don't know if, they're all going to end, 2027 and we're stacking it now, so
Yeah.
just kind of curious.
Yeah, actually, and I'm processing this data point. Each of the statutory tools has certain districts can only go so long, and certain tools can only be used for so long, and tax abatement under the Missouri Constitution, 25 years is the max. So I'm thinking how to plug that into this data.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Atkins.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Frazier, because I have lots of ideas too about the chart. I love the chart. But I'd love to see it extended with revenue to the city after the pilots are finished. I'd love to see the long-term impact to the city when they're all stacked on top of each other. So Mr. Bushek, I had a question for you about, I think a slide before this, you're showing averages and comparisons. So this is 7.2% of the total project cost, which I think is fantastic because I know that over 25 years we've averaged 20% across all of them. So I think 7.2 is low, and that's great, and that's conservative. But I think you're also pointing out this middle, this pilot per unit, that this is coming in higher than what we would normally give. Is that right? Just a couple, like just 100?
Is there,
I suppose it depends on what you look at, and the one thing that I think that I need to have some more data for you, if this does move forward, is the scenic project that they, in the, down on Highway. What did I say? Yeah, scenic, the Raintree Village project. We need some more data on that if this comes back.
you would build out these spreadsheets further with that
Yeah,
data?
that's what I'm saying. I think we need some more data on that project as a point of comparison, which is missing here. Just something I noticed tonight.
Okay. And maybe to the developer, can you tell us the price point of the units?
So the easiest one to quote would be the independent living is in the $3,000 to $4,000 range. But that comes with, as I said before, just to be clear, it's not just, quote, a nice apartment. It comes with food, services, and it comes with house cleaning. So it's a little bit more like a hotel, but.
And is that monthly?
Sorry, yeah, I'm being short speak.
No, that's okay. I just don't know how the industry works. Is it monthly, like indefinitely?
In that sense, it's like an apartment, yes. All that you pay per month. That's right, $3,000 to $4,000 range starting out per month.
Okay. And then in terms of the but-for statement, you had said, like, I can continue talking about the market, and I kind of do want to hear about the market. Are there other areas in Lee Summit that you've also looked at, or are there other towns that you would do this? Because I also want to know, how much have you spent so far in this investigative process? How far along are we? How much has been invested?
We call it sort of site selection or site discovery. And so I do, even in my role, I get to be a part of that. And it's all around, especially in Missouri with me. And yeah, you do early. You have to tell me how much you want to talk about it. You look at the site itself, you look at the characteristics, you look on the cost side, oftentimes get very early estimates from engineers or contractors on what the cost might be, early estimates. Mm-hmm. And then you match that up with, can you get a certificate of need, which is a big deal. We have consultants that just focus on that in Jeff City. Can you get a certificate of need? And then you start looking at overall, on the revenue side, you start looking at what can people pay in the area, what's the market in that part of the state or in that part of the city, and you have to start matching it all up, and then you build pro formas, and you all of a sudden you start saying, well, which sites, okay, what does this look like? Okay, this site would work, but we're kind of to Councilmember Funk's point, now I'm making this up for this hypothetical, but when you look at assume a 10-year leverage pro forma looking at 70-30 debt at 6.5% and rents of this, and you go, oh, I'm 150 basis points off. Okay, Kurt, what could we do about that? We kind of like that site and that city. Well, let's look at it. Look at the city's history, look at the tools available, we run the model, we plug it in. That's the process that leads us out of looking at, I don't know, at any given time, 15 sites across Missouri and beyond Missouri. And we might whittle it down to 5, start some conversations. Well, for X or Y reason, that's not going to work. Then we get down to 3. And then you start to see these proceedings with about that number right now that I'm working on with them in Missouri. So.
And so how much has been invested so far in this process to where you are?
I wouldn't say an exact number, but like, would you? Hundreds. To be fair, I know you get, rather than give like to everybody in the world, it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to this point, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thank you.
Yes,
appreciate that. I will say that I love the concept. I mean, I know I've talked to a lot of people about how badly we need this for our community, because you're right. I mean, you're saying people move out of their homes into this, and that's what makes affordable housing for the rest of us, is when we can rotate people through in all phases of life. So I appreciate the product very much, and I know that we need it. One last point I would make is that I know we didn't do the other presentation tonight about the zoning and the build out, but I have been watching on Planning Commission, and I've seen what you've been presenting. It matters to me whether the people along the fence are happy with this project, because it does go up close, and I know that it's been moved a little bit, but that does matter. And I know that you've removed shrubs down by the cul-de-sac so they can still see the pond, and that's wonderful. But it really matters if the people that are right there are content with the way that it's going to build forward. So that's what I'll be paying attention to as it moves forward.
And to be fair, just because not everybody knows as much probably as you do in terms of watching that, the team has really earnestly tried to get everybody on board. We cannot always promise that, because everyone can have their own opinion, that everyone will get there, but we will be prepared to explain, like you're doing probably not this second, right? What we've done, and if that comes up, I think we'll be probably at the mid-June meeting, and we'll be prepared to talk about that, because you're right, that's really important. We have to show that we've done everything reasonably possible to make it a harmonious transition. So appreciate the remark.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and so otherwise, I do like the project, and I don't mind investing. I don't mind the concept of investing in great projects in the city. I think that's our duty, so I do appreciate that part. And thank you, Mr. Bushek.
Good?
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I know there's a couple council people that want to speak again, but I'm going to allow council people that have not spoken yet to go first. Councilmember Cravens.
Thanks, Mayor. So I am always in support of filling a gap, a need that's in the city, and I do appreciate a couple of things with this project. One, utilizing a targeted area. Also, it's just important that we keep our eye on housing for all different stages of life, and I think that this definitely fits in that category. A lot of my questions that I did have on there has already been answered, but for me, when we talk about this independent living stage of housing, we do have a lot of premium or luxury spaces for our residents, but I would like to see more opportunity to fill gaps of our residents, our aging residents that can't afford the $3,000 to $4,000 a year facilities. And I know that we do have a handful of facilities that are kind of outside that range of affordability, if you will. But I am happy to hear in your response that it's not just a matter of the rent being $3,000 to $4,000. It does include extra things that could offset some of that that burden when you look at food and cleaning being included. I do want to kind of reserve my position here just because I do kind of want to hear more. I want to hear what some of the residents close to this project is saying, because I know that we have some areas that may be kind of blocked visibility wise in terms of the vantage point from current residents. But again, I do like the fact that we are focusing on targeted areas. We are creating new jobs, and we are fulfilling a need with our aging community. So that's it. That was just my comment. A couple of things that was still left that wasn't said. So.
Great. Thank you. We will go to Councilmember Carlisle, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few kind of maybe follow-up questions that I didn't hear. So first, Chief Snyder, if I could have you. So earlier you said that these kind of places average 1.5 calls per unit, approximately?
That is correct.
And so would that be for the independent living units or the assisted living units or the memory care units?
No, it was looking at the complete 187 units.
Okay, so all of those things combined, okay.
That's correct.
And so of those 1.5, those are probably all going to be some kind of government insurance, the Medicare, Medicaid, right?
I would make an assumption towards that, yes.
And how much money do we lose per ambulance ride that uses Medicaid?
So I can simply say that on Medicare, at the not specifically speaking to Lee Summit, but in general is about a 30 to 60% collection based on what is billed, and then for Medicaid is 10 to 30%.
Okay, and so probably more than 80% are going to be on Medicare, Medicaid.
I would make the same assumption.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then the developer, you kind of had a follow-up to those comments, you know, of how you make those ambulance rides better. So does that go to all of the units or just like the memory care and assisted living? And are you saying that the independent living folks are getting care kind of as well, so it makes those rides?
It's less acute, which you know intuitively by asking the question, but it's the aspect of being communal. You're around people all the time, so that's on the independent living side more than the more acute measures taken on the other two levels of care.
Okay, so really you're saying is that you make it better because they're around people, people are seeing them every day knowing that they're not falling for 2 days in their home.
Right,
Basically.
and there's more, but that's generally right, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. I think the next one's probably going to be for you too. On your job slide, you said it's going to, after the construction, it'll have 50 to 55 full-time equivalents.
That's right.
So my assumption is like you're going to have a facility manager, probably a maintenance person, or maybe 2 maintenance people, and then obviously a doctor that's going to oversee everything. But aside from that, yeah, like how many are going to be actual RNs or CNAs, or do you know what the average, like, because I know what the average salary for each of those people is, but so like how many of those people are going to be, let's just put it easy, really. How many will be able to live in Lee Summit on the salary they're going to be paid here?
Yeah, that's good. Rather than even shoot from the hip, and that's one of those things we can pull, and we'll just get that to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Now we will go back around. Councilmember Frazier.
Sorry. You talked about the 187 units. What I did not ask is, are those 1-bedroom units or 2-bedroom or what?
It's a mix. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's
Okay.
a mix across from.
So just to comment, I think that's good because what it allows for is potentially senior couples to move in together.
And the independent villas, for example, this is just an example because there's a mix amongst everything, but the ones that were up in the northwest corner that were detached, those are 2-bedroom.
Okay.
But then there's mix within everything else.
Good. And are utilities included?
Are utilities included?
Like you.
We got a thumbs up on that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. What is the neighborhood just north?
The name?
Pebble Ridge?
Ridgewood Hills.
Holiday,
Ridgewood.
oh, yeah, Ridgewood.
Ridgewood Hills.
Is it all single family in that neighborhood?
I think so,
It is.
yeah.
It is.
Can you show the slide again of your facility and then that neighborhood? And how far is your facility from the houses? What's the closest?
And we have a different slide deck for just so you know, we can do this as much as you want for that zoning where we'll get into all this, but let's go to the slide I at least have in this deck, which is going to be this.
And what's it currently zoned?
That's probably the best one.
Okay, yeah, that's the one.
Is it ag right now? Do you remember?
Yeah.
What's the current zoning?
I don't know the current zoning, but you could build, in essence,
Shannon McGuire, Assistant Director of Plan Services. It is currently zoned CP2.
Oh, okay. That's not the slide. There was another slide that showed like what you were gonna build where.
So the site plan, could that be
Yeah,
right
that
there?
one.
Okay.
Okay, so, how far is that? What's the highest, so how many stories, what's the highest level of stories this will be on any of it?
So do we have a good picture? Is that representative, or I know we took it from the other?
yeah, but we're.
Why don't you come on up and let's talk about this together? So I don't have elevated, again, I hate not being prepared, but this is all of our zoning things where we have all these details, so just so you know. So we will be talking in depth, but.
So, Tim, do you want to step up? I'm going to have our architect address this. Again, we were going to address this tonight, but there was a problem with the notification. So, but Tim can talk about the elevation and how we're using the grade down to the lake.
I just kind of want to know, because as Councilmember Adkins said, if people are concerned about this and then they're going to be reaching out to us, I just want to know all of the information now so I'm prepared when they reach out to us. So, thank you.
Number of stories on the site plan too, we can talk about.
Yeah. Hi, Tim Wilson with SWD Architects. Address is 315 Nichols Road, Kansas City, Missouri. So this is actually a 4-story project here. This is down in St. Peters, Missouri. What we're looking at, how do I get back
The
to?
easiest way is right here, if you just go like that. Like that's right. And you go up and down. And tell me where you want to go.
Go back to our site plan.
Site plan is
There
right
you go.
there. Yep.
So what we have on the site, so this is the high portion of the site, and this all slopes down to the pond down here. So we've got our single-story villas up here in this area, and some of these will actually step between the units about a foot as they come down to help absorb that grade as we're coming down the hill this way. And then when we get down to this area here, this portion, the assisted living, is 2 stories. The memory care is single story back here, so we're keeping our single story as close as we can to the neighbors back here to help with just the mass of the project. And we're also using these buildings to help absorb the grade as we're coming down. So the assisted living in this area is 2 stories. The main entrance into the building at this point is 2 stories on this end here, and this little piece right here is 2 stories on the assisted living. This is all single story within this area. This has the commercial kitchen. It's got the dining room for the assisted living, the dining room for the independent living, the pool and fitness area for the independent living. And then when we get to this point here, we're picking up 11 feet of the grade. We're using the building as a retaining wall at this point. So from here down to this end is still 2 stories on the front of the building. So from the street, this all appears as 2 stories. And then right here, this will slope down, and this end of the building will be 3 stories along this side here. And this is actually the first plan that we brought to Planning Commission after meeting with the neighbors and comments from the first Planning Commission meeting. We went back, had another meeting with the neighbors, and what we've done here is this actually stretches out a little bit here. We were able to bring this road in tighter. We moved the trash enclosures and generators and things like that. But that would all be part of our presentation for the rezoning, or for the PDP and SUP.
Okay, thank you. And I'm assuming since it's grading down towards the pond that it's not going to increase any stormwater along any of those houses?
No.
No, okay. Do you know what the furthest distance is up here where it's a little closer? Do you know how far that is?
At our last planning commission, Hector, I believe, had
And I can go
figured
back
this. But I can't remember off the top of my head of what we were there.
Okay. It makes me feel better knowing it's already zoned CP2, so it's not zoned ag, but,
No, it's zoned for commercial use,
Yeah.
so it could be a big box type facility here.
yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
That it? Good, thank you. Okay, Mr. Peterson, I'll give you some feedback as myself as well. And new members up here, we didn't let you down, did we? Good questions, good feedback? It's a tradition up here. Good, we're gonna keep it going. So for me, I know the site very well. Don't live very far from there. I know that through the years, it's been on the market for many years. It's been a challenging site. Topography is a challenge for the type of commercial that will ever go there. I think the concept itself, I think most of my colleagues that spoke in favor of potentially being in support of this have already expressed this is a concept that's needed, you know, in our community and across the region, of course. So I think that's great to bring this concept to our community and hopefully for most of our residents to take advantage of here in our community. I think that the site plan itself is something that I'm kind of curious as well. As I said, I know the area very well. I know Councilmember Atkins and I, it's an area that we've represented, Councilmember Rader as well. We've represented that area for many years and lived in that area. I just want to make sure the neighbors are respected and there's good dialogue and good relationship with those neighbors immediately to the north before you all come back. And I know we will get the calls. So besides that, I feel comfortable with this. I think this is a proper use for that site. And I just would like to see, as I've not had the opportunity to look into the Planning Commission information, but I'm curious about traffic flow and all those kind of things as well. I know it's a tight corridor, and so public safety is important up in that area, that part of the city. But I would be in supportive of this. So you want kind of some feedback and an idea of kind of, I don't know if you're tabbing on your own, but I think there's 6 of us that at this point feel comfortable in proceeding. There's 2 that have question marks and maybe just need to get more detail after y'all go and thoroughly vet out the site plan. And I think there's 1 that I know would not be in support of it. So I think that's the type of feedback you're looking for. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Oh, Councilmember Pryor, we have one more question.
Thanks. It's actually not a question, but I did look up reviews on Princeton, and they have very good reviews. So, yeah.
Good point. Good operator. So thank you all very much. All right. Yeah, I think we will take a 10-minute recess, please. Thank you.
Ever wondered how the city budget works? The total 2026 budget is over $380 million, which includes funding for daily operations, capital improvements, debt service, internal service, and enterprise operations. For example, the general fund is the foundation for the city's day-to-day services and investments like road maintenance, public safety, and fire protection. The general fund is supported by property taxes, sales taxes generated by local businesses, franchise taxes, and other sources like licenses, permits, and fees. For every dollar citizens pay in property tax, the city receives 18 cents. This means the city receives $845 a year in property taxes for a median single-family house. These taxes provide public safety, park maintenance, infrastructure, and the best services to keep Lee Summit going and improving. One of the community's top priorities is infrastructure investment, which is reflected in the Capital Improvement Plan. $113 million of the 2026 budget is invested into the Capital Improvement Plan. The 2026 Capital Improvement budget includes investments like the 291 and 50 Highway Interchange, 3rd Street, Ward and Purcell's intersection, and Pryor Road. The budget process includes guidance from the City Council, citizen input, and critical success factors from the city's Ignite strategic plan. To learn more about the city's budget, visit cityofls.net/budget.
When the person called on the phone, she said that there was a dinosaur walking down her road. Of course, we had to go out and check that out. We get out there, and it was a big African tortoise, probably 60 pounds, walking down the road. When they walk, they really stand up tall, so I could see why she thought it was a dinosaur. I'm Rodney Wagner. I'm the manager of Lee Summit Animal Control. So as you can see, we get all sorts of animals here. You got some guinea pigs off to the side. All the windows up here are animals that are adoptable right now. Every one of these dogs is ready to go and ready for adoption. And the same thing with our cats over here. A lot of cool cats in here now, so. This is our 3-acre lot we have out back. This is where we do all the walking of dogs, exercise. We also have a side yard off to the side over there, so we can let them run loose. They can run together, and we have what's called play groups. Kind of like having a bunch of kids. Here's our vet room. We have a vet that comes out twice a week. This is our Sally Port where we bring the animals into. This is one of our animal control trucks. and we can hold up to 6 animals. We have a lift on the other side to put big animals in. We actually have temperature gauges in here and in the truck to tell us how hot it is. Once it gets to a certain temperature, we bring all the animals back here immediately. So this actually has traps in it, but we do a lot of wildlife trapping. I mean, a lot. So bats, pot-bellied pigs, horses, cows, emus, a lot of reptiles. We had a citizen one time that had over 200 reptiles in his basement. Caimans and alligators in here that are 4 or 5 feet long, you can't keep those. And people do, and they're surprised when they can't keep them. I'm like, really? You're surprised you can't have an alligator in your house? Our main goal here is public safety and also the safety of the animals. And we have very dedicated people back there, and they definitely stay here for the love of the animals, which also includes getting them adopted out. We'll have about 4,000 impounded animals a year. Probably about close to 2,000 are dogs and cats. The cats and dogs, when they get impounded here, they go on a 5-day hold. And then after the 5 days, if the owner doesn't show up, then we can put them up for adoption. To adopt an animal here is actually really simple. You just come in, look for whatever animal you're looking for, find the right pick. You go to the adoption room up there and see if you get along with them. You spend as much time as you want to in there. From that point on, it's just a matter of making sure they're spay or neutered and all their vaccinations up to par and they're good to go. We have a very high adoption rate because we try everything in our power to get animals adopted out. We have Heart of America, a Humane Society that we do a lot of adoptions through. And then we also have other groups. We have some people that literally will just look all over the country for somewhere for a dog to go. And we sent dogs up into South Dakota, North Dakota, Washington State. So it's actually, it's a huge united effort to get all these animals home.
Tarzan's got lots of energy. Hazel's got a weird meow. Belle, she wants nothing to do with the other cats. She'll kind of get her grumpy face going.
And the good thing about the people here is that they get all their friends to get animals too. All of us have probably the limit of all the animals that we can have at home. You know, they are huge animal lovers. If it was up to the people here, we'd have 15 cats running around in here. We had a citizen one time out there and he was bathing his 2 9-foot-long boa constrictors in the front yard. Apparently that was garnering some attention, and so we went out there and had to have a talk with him about that. Why do I do this job? Oh, dude, I love this job. I grew up on a farm, and taking care of that many animals, you can't help but like animals. This is just like fancy farming. You know, you're just bringing animals in here, taking care of them, and find them homes, and yeah, absolutely animal lover.
This is the best place to work.
I love working here.
I feel very blessed.
I love it here. I look forward to coming to work every day, being a part of this team.
Like a family away from home.
Where everyone feels like everybody knows their name.
A city that supports you. We see that with our benefits.
A pension, vacation days, job security.
Being able to be heard.
We feel valued. We feel respected.
Lee Summit is a very progressive city.
It's growing, it's thriving.
We have this drive towards not just doing a job, but doing it with a spirit of excellence.
I had the opportunity to continue to grow, regardless of 30+ years doing this kind of work.
It's more than just dollars and cents.
We're here really to give back.
Providing a service to better a community.
To go out and serve people.
To be a part of something bigger than yourself. If I would have known what I know now, years ago, I would have been here much sooner.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
I'm like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, please, how can we help you?
My husband
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person and they responded immediately. And we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
We will continue with the agenda for tonight. And we have another presentation. This one is a general overview of the Northland Reserve property. Mr. Bushek.
Thank you. David Bushek, Economic Development Council for the city. I'll start by saying some preliminary matters before I get into the meat of the presentation. This item is an update, and I think on the agenda it specifically is called general overview of the North Land Reserve property. And I'll start with a bit of history. The city executed a memorandum of understanding with Land Reserve 2 years ago, And then in August of last year, I made a presentation to the City Council. We made a presentation to the City Council, and it was fashioned as a conceptual presentation to get the council's feedback on the financing structure that we had put together. This is both a bit of a repeat of that presentation and an update to update the elected officials who previously heard this and to educate the new elected officials on this. And so one of the things that I will say, based on the conversation that we just had about the previous project, this is much larger, much more complicated, and I had this thought over the weekend. This is the season of detours. You have to take detours occasionally due to road construction. If I need to take a detour on this presentation to explain an issue or to explain what a acronym means or what a term means, or if you need any sort of explanation, this presentation is for you. It's to update the City Council on what we've been doing, and it's for you to understand how this works, and it's an opportunity for you to ask questions and let us know if you don't understand something, because there are points of this that are complicated, but we do our best to summarize and explain it in a way that hopefully you can understand. I guess with that, I'll go ahead and get started and walk through the presentation. So what we are talking about tonight is we're focusing on the north area. I already mentioned that we executed the Memorandum of Understanding 2 years ago. We've been working with the Land Reserve team for, I think, 7 years now. I think we started talking with them in 2019, and it's been an extensive planning period. And as you'll see from our presentation, the reason is the scope and the scale of this is kind of tremendous. It's a unique opportunity for the city, and this meeting tonight, and by the time I'm finished with this presentation, you'll see what we have planned for the upcoming meetings. This is kind of the kickoff point. There's been lots of planning, lots of discussion, but this composition of the City Council is the City Council that will start to make decisions and will be requesting votes to be made on the financing plan to move forward with this. So this is kind of the kickoff, even though this is also an update for you and an opportunity to answer your questions. So I'll start with background. This map shows where the land reserve property, property reserve property is located today. There's two large areas. The northern area is about 1,000 acres, and I'll get into some more data in a moment. And then the property down here is about 3,200 acres, all owned by the same entity. So one of the unique things that we are presented with, and this is something that I've emphasized many times at the City Council, is we're working with one landowner. It's an extremely rare opportunity to be working with one landowner on this scale and to be able to talk about financing infrastructure improvements at this scale. This won't ever happen again in Lee Summit, and this probably hasn't happened in any other city in Missouri that I'm aware of. I've talked with the partners that I work with, and nobody's ever seen a land mass of this scale owned by one owner, which presents the ability of the city to work with that one property owner to come up with a financing plan. So this is kind of an historic moment for the city, and you'll be making some very significant decisions that will have significant impact for the city for many decades to come. That's the City Council. As I said, we're focusing on the north area, so this is approximately 1,000 acres, and this is the map that you'll be seeing many times. This is the interstate. This is all located on the eastern side of the interstate, north of Colburn Road here. I will turn the podium over to the other parties that we are working with, and I'll let them introduce themselves and say a few comments, and I will come back and continue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So great to be with you, all of you. My name is Tyler Buswell. I'm the President of Land Reserve, and I'm also the Global Head of Property Reserve. And both Land Reserve and Property Reserve are real estate investment companies based in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we invest the reserve funds for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The easiest way to understand that is essentially we're part of the endowment for the church's charitable and religious purposes. But we are investment companies. So Property Reserve is a long-term land investor, diversified real estate portfolio, and we have large investments in land. And they are long-term holds in communities that we believe in. Land Reserve is essentially the development and master plan company. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Property Reserve, and it's the company that master plans communities and actually develops those master plan communities. Currently, Land Reserve has master plan communities in 6 states. So that's just a little bit about who we are and who I am. And again, I've appeared before this council a few times in the past, but excited to meet the new council members and those of you that I've met in the past, excited to continue to collaborate with you. As was mentioned, we've been working on this project for a long time. We have invested in this community long before that, though. So this property right here that we're going to talk about tonight was purchased in 1982. And that is the way that Property Reserve invests in long-term land holdings. It is, we find communities that we believe in, right? We believe in the infrastructure, we believe in the schools, we believe in the growth, we believe in the jobs, and we invest in large land holdings and hold it till the time is right to develop. That's our strategy. That's what we do. And what we are to today is sort of the realization of that long-term investment. And the other 3,000 acres, by the way, that was purchased in 1990. So again, we have been long-term investors in Lee's Summit. We've believed in Lee's Summit for a long time. And the last 7 years is us saying, hey, we think it's probably about time to start developing here and start engaging with the city. What is right for the community? We truly view ourselves as community builders. So land reserve, when we are master planning and trying to, envision what a long-term land and in particular large-scale land holding is going to be, is what is right for the community, what does the community need, and how do we help fill that need? And we feel like if we make a great community, we're also going to get a rate of return. Because again, we're an investment company, so that's our goal. But if we're doing it right, that's what we believe in. So we obviously collaborate with cities, and in this case with city staff who's been wonderful to work with. The elected officials have been great. And again, it's a long-term process because again, we put our capital in a long time, and because these projects take a long time to develop because they're so large, again, we want to do this hand in hand with what is right for the community. So that's a little bit about us. That's what we care about. Those are what our values are. And so appreciate this and look forward to ongoing discussions.
So the next few slides provide some data for you to understand the scope of what we're dealing with. The land reserve property is a little over 4,200 acres, and you see the precise acreage in the north area and the south area of the city. Some other interesting data points. Lee Summit is the 6th largest city, both by population and land area. In my research, I found, kind of surprisingly, there's over 1,000 municipalities in Missouri. A lot of them are very small villages and burgs. There's over 1,000 municipalities, and the land reserve property would be 104 by land area alone. And just as another interesting fact, I have the size of Lee Summit there by land area in the nation. This chart then compares the land reserve property, both the land scale to some other cities, and then we have the population of these other cities. So just as a point of comparison, cities you're familiar with, Raytown and Peculiar, about 9 square miles. The land reserve property is about 6.5 square miles. Oak Grove, Hollister, Green Valley, University City, all smaller than the land reserve property that we're talking about tonight. And you'll see at the bottom, again, as just a point of comparison, there's over 33,000 people in University City, which is in the St. Louis area. By rank, population rank, that's number 20. So the proposal isn't to develop this property with that much density, but the point is you can fit that many people in an area that's smaller than the property we're talking about tonight. So the thing that I said last year, it's as if we're planning to develop a city within a city, because that's the scope of what we're dealing with here, both in land size and potential population. The goals, as I alluded to in my introduction, we have an extremely unique circumstance to work with one property owner, and we've been doing so very cooperatively for many years now. The goal is to create a long-term financing strategy to fund the major infrastructure improvements in the north and the south area, and very importantly, to avoid a piecemeal approach. What I mean by that is if we were to start thinking about all of the what ifs, if you don't approve and don't act on what we're presenting to you tonight, what would happen? It'd be highly speculative. But I think it would be a much more piecemeal approach to funding the infrastructure, that is certain. And I think what we would probably see, and this will become more clear by the time I'm finished with my presentation, based on the pattern of development and how we funded infrastructure historically in the city, I think that process would probably repeat itself in some fashion if we didn't take the opportunity to work with the one property owner as we have been doing. I think it would be a much more piecemeal approach, and the development probably be stretched out over a much longer period of time, and it probably would not be as impactful for the city. And I can elaborate on that if we want to talk about it at the end. But I think this is an extremely rare opportunity to avoid a piecemeal approach like we've had in other parts of the city and work with one property owner to develop a comprehensive strategy. So now we're focusing in on just the northern 1,000 acres, what the project is being called. The entire 1,000 acres is being called Arborside by the Land Reserve team. This is essentially a tally of what we have been focusing on for many years. We've been focusing on all the different types of land uses, residential, mixed use, commercial, industrial, institutional uses. We've been planning for parks, fire, police, schools. Land Reserve has been talking with the school districts. And we are primarily focused on funding the major infrastructure costs. So that's the arterial transportation improvements, water and sewer, and then the primary utilities and regional stormwater. I'll be showing you in a moment what those costs are, but this slide shows you in summary fashion all of the items we've been working with the Land Reserve team, the school districts, and the other interested parties as this property is being proposed for development. This slide shows you the estimate of the major public infrastructure costs to build the northern 1,000 acres. Major transportation improvements approaching $40 million, sanitary sewer $34 million, major stormwater improvements $1.7, water mains $6.2, electric, and then a healthy contingency at 20% to factor in the unknowns. The city has already secured funding for two of these items in very important categories, the major transportation improvements at $24 million and the sanitary sewer improvements at $10.5 million. This chart, it's essentially a recap of what I just showed you. Total costs, this is the target that we're trying to fund. This is the secured city funding, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a moment. So this is the remainder. This is the target of what we're trying to solve for with this funding package over time. This is the number we're trying to solve for the major infrastructure improvements. One of the action items that this city council has already taken is the city council, previous composition of the city council, approved a contract with Land Reserve for the Todd George Parkway. This page here is a page from the city's capital improvement plan for the Todd George Parkway. So if you were to go to the capital improvements plan, you would turn to this page, you would find it, and you would see that this is a project that the city has already factored in its capital improvements plan. And this is the approximate schedule, fiscal year 27 through the year 2030, a cost of $24 million. This city council has already approved a contract with Land Reserve, between Land Reserve and the city, under which Land Reserve will be constructing the Todd George improvements for the city and accelerating it. So instead of the city funding these improvements several years out, this contract allows Land Reserve to proceed with the construction of this road soon, and they're already going, I'm not sure what the RFP process is, they may be finished with that, but it's already underway based on a contract that this city council's already approved. So this is an effort that we're already moving forward with, and so you understand where this comes from up here, that's this $24 million in the secured funding. So the city was planning on funding Todd George Parkway to the tune of $24 million in a future fiscal year. That contract allows Land Reserve to move forward, and then the city will be appropriating those funds to reimburse Land Reserve under that contract. So that's one method of secured financing from the city that the city brings to the table in this equation. Next, sanitary sewer improvements. I'll just give a summary of this, and we have people here that can provide more detail if you want. There's 3 pump stations. This is the location of these 3 pump stations. This shows the areas that this serves based on the geography. These pump stations the city has secured, that's the $10.5 million in funding that the city has secured based on funding from the state. So the city brings to the table $10.5 million in funding for these improvements, and the remainder needs to be solved for in some fashion. And we can have others that can talk about these details and the sewer improvements and how this work if we need to later in the presentation. This is another slide showing the same area and showing appropriately north is up, shows the areas that the 3 pump stations in green would serve just to give you a better sense of how this would develop out. So the financing plan framework, this is where I provided an explanation to the City Council last year, and I'm going to go ahead and explain this again. This is the point where it may sound like I'm wandering a little bit in my discussion, but I will actually bring all this back together when I talk about some of these other items. So one of the things that I'll talk about first is our zoning and our subdivision regulations. The city adopted a Unified Development Ordinance around 2000. And I had the good fortune of working on that all the way through the process with the city. I was the primary author of the UDO when it was originally adopted, working with many other city staff. And we went through an extensive period of hearings in front of what was, I think it had a different name, but it was the Community and Economic Development Committee back in the year 2000. The UDOs consist of, I don't know what the count is today, 12 or so articles. And back then, I think it may have been 14 articles, and there was a hearing over a period of over 12 months, going over every article one at a time. The reason I'm mentioning that is because the UDO is when the city moved to planned zoning. And what that means is, you're very familiar with it already, preliminary development plans. Standard zoning essentially divides, it separates the uses. Like one of the old cases talks about keeping the pig out of the parlor, keeping the land uses separated so you don't have incompatible uses close together. That's zoning. Subdivision regulations, which are now incorporated right into the Unified Development Ordinance, the main point of subdivision regulations is to ensure that as property is subdivided, there's adequate public facilities and services to serve that property. So we've got zoning separating the uses, we've got subdivision regulations making sure that there's adequate public facilities when land is carved up because it enhances the intensity of the uses on our system. More traffic, more water use, more sewer use, and so forth. So we have the Unified Development Ordinance, and then I think it was around 2019, we had a substantial amendment of the UDO to take portions of the Design and Construction Manual, which governs how the public improvements are actually constructed, and it was woven into the UDO, the zoning regulations and the subdivision regulations in a more efficient manner for the city to move forward with projects. The reason I'm telling you all of that and giving you the zoning and the subdivision regulation history is for this reason. And what I said last year was my summary of what Lee Summit has been doing for 25 years is the city has effectively an unwritten policy of essentially saying yes as opposed to no when it comes to zoning. And here's what I mean by that. Every project that comes forward, the city staff meets with the applicant. There's a pre-application meeting, then an applicant's meeting. And the focus of those discussions is essentially part and parcel with the zoning and the subdivision regulations that I've been talking about, which is from the very first moment of each one of those meetings when when the city staff meets with an applicant, they're trying to find ways to say yes as opposed to no. What that means is if a project comes forward and there's inadequate road, water, sewer, stormwater, the city would have the ability to say no because of inadequate infrastructure. But from all the focus that this city has placed on zoning and the subdivision regulations and the UDO, all of these projects, the city steers towards saying yes as opposed to no. And when the city says yes, that often comes with conditions. And so something that council members that have been on the city council before and our new council members will get used to, when you see zoning applications, it's very common to include conditions on approval. And the conditions are the developer has to solve the infrastructure deficiencies that the city can't solve through its capital improvements plan. So you'll see many applications where the developer needs to build these turn lanes, these traffic improvements, put in this signal, these water improvements, these sewer improvements. And it's often the case, frequently, that the developer says, because the city hasn't gotten around to funding these public improvements yet, and you're making those a condition of my approval, which is called an exaction. I've talked about exactions with the city council last year. The city essentially has a policy of exactions and requires the developer to build the public infrastructure that is missing. That comes at substantial cost, and that is largely the reason that incentives have been so prevalent in Lee Summit. It's to pay for public improvements. That's sort of the foundation of what the city has done for over 2 decades, probably close to 3 decades now. One of the things that I would kind of amend what I said last year is I said it was an unwritten policy, and that is the case. It's not written down anywhere that the city tries to say yes in every case, but that is what happens. And so the amendment to my statement last year, I think it actually is written. It is the UDO, and that's why I wanted to take some time to explain that to you. I think the effort that this city has collectively over decades attempted to do is get to yes instead of no with its zoning approvals, but that yes comes with exactions and that comes with the cost that the developer has to bear, or there's no project. That's sort of the basis of the incentives. So when I said it was an unwritten policy, I think it's probably a written policy. It's the UDO. That's what the city has been doing for so many years. But an important point, and the reason I would call it sort of unwritten, is you always have discretion with your zoning approvals. So there's nothing that you would see in the UDO that says, we're going to try to say yes for you, because you always have your legislative discretion when you're approving these projects. So hopefully you follow all of that sort of rambling analysis of what I think the city has been doing for many decades, which is getting to yes with its zoning approvals, but using exactions, which imposes these public improvement costs on developers, which have led to multiple incentive requests, and that's how substantial portions of our city and the infrastructure have been built. The best example of that would be look at streets of West Pryor, Summit Woods, and Summit Fair. I won't go into it unless you want me to, but those projects paid for substantial infrastructure improvements. Chipman Road, the realignment of Pryor Road. Pryor Road used to go through where Lowe's and Kohl's is located today. That road had to be moved over. There's the flyovers, the exit ramp off Chipman Road. All of those improvements were funded by those projects and the incentives that were used in those projects as a result of the developer saying, if you're going to make me build these public improvements, I'm going to need some assistance. And so that's how we get to what I would call the city's unwritten but sort of written exaction policy through the UDO. So that's a long way of explaining what I think is the framework and what the city's been doing for a long time. So this table then, this is a very important table for you to understand how this structure works. And I'll walk through each piece of this with you. So starting on the left side, this is the array of land uses that we've been talking about. We have single family, R1, industrial, R2, we're calling now R2 plus because that's all of the other residential land uses beyond R1. Densities from townhome density on up to higher densities, office, and then retail. Then there's two primary funding tools that we use, and that is real property tax redirection or abatement, that's this category, and then a new sales tax. This column basically shows a period of 10 years, the first 10 years and the second 10 years for each of these types of land uses, which I'll explain. Then these columns here, this is an indication of what happens with these revenues under this plan. So the yellow column shows what revenues flow through to the taxing districts as normal. So for example, for single family, there's no modification of how taxes flow with single family under this structure. Single family, none of the incentive tools will be used for single family. They will pay full property taxes, no taxes will be diverted, no taxes will be abated. For the industrial, the proposal is during the first 10 years, 5% of the revenue flows to the taxing districts. Then the next 10 years, 25% of the revenue flows to the taxing districts. And then the proposal is for the residential, 25 and then 100%. And then office and retail, it's 75% straight down. So again, this column shows what revenues would flow to the taxing districts as normal as the system usually works. Tax redirection. This column is largely how we would fund the public improvements. So 20% of the abated taxes would flow in the form of CID special assessments, and this would be turned into revenue to fund the public improvements. So in very simple terms, property taxes are being abated, and the green column shows what property taxes are being reimposed to generate the revenue to fund the infrastructure improvements over a period of time. And that's what this column represents. Then tax redirection for local public improvements, the placeholder down here is just half of the new CID sales tax revenue would be allocated to pay for localized public improvements as opposed to the big ticket infrastructure items that I just covered on the previous slides. And then the final column here is the abatement column, and this is the characterization would be business attraction. This is essentially land reserve proposal for an abatement that results in a business attraction both for industrial and residential R2 and above. And then the asterisks here are a placeholder for office and retail. They will have the ability to request an additional incentive on a case-by-case basis, and that's something that would come forward later, but that's not something that's part of the package that we're talking about tonight. So the most important thing to keep in mind is this box here. This is where we would generate the bulk of the revenues from this tax redirection strategy to fund the infrastructure improvements over a period of time, plus the new CID sales tax down here. In a nutshell, that's how this structure works. Now, one of the items that was requested specifically by Mayor Pro Tem Shields at the discussion last year was, can we see what this structure looks like in the framework of what you're used to seeing on a project-by-project basis? So now, new council members, you've seen tables which look similar to this on a couple occasions, including tonight. And so this takes this financing structure and puts it into this framework with the understanding that this is for the full 1,000 acres, all three phases of 1,000 acres. So it's very hard to do this when you don't have a specific pinpoint project. We're talking about very large aggregate numbers, but we can still go through the exercise. So the two tools that we'll be using, land clearance for redevelopment authority and a community improvement district. The LCRA has two purposes in this case, real property tax abatement and the sales tax exemption. The rate of the real property tax abatement is variable based on the data that I just showed you on the previous slide, and that would last for up to 20 years depending on the land use. The benefit of that to the developer is it reduces development costs, and if you were to characterize these numbers as a percentage of total project cost by phase, that's what this calculation does. So land reserve's estimate is that fully developing this first phase, phase one, would cost this amount down here, $506 million for all of the development, all in. And then this is the calculation of what these numbers mean as a comparison of the total project cost. So trying to do the apples to apples comparison, like I just talked with you about in the previous discussion. Then the second tool, the CID, this is what actually generates the revenues. So the special assessments would be imposed for certain portions of the abated taxes. That's what generates a reimbursement source, and this is our quantification of the reimbursement source. So these numbers here are an estimate of the monies that would go to pay for the public improvements, the large infrastructure improvements that I just described to you on the previous slide, and this gives you a sense of what this data looks like in comparison to this phase. So as a summary and an answer to the question, what does this framework look like, when you compare it to the framework we usually use for specific projects, the total benefit flowing to the landowner and land reserve in this case from tallying all of these numbers up, it's 14% of the total costs of building out this entire phase. That's sort of the apples to apples comparison. And then this is the data for phase two. So this is exactly the same chart. The only difference is phase two, total estimated costs, and these numbers change a bit based on the estimated cost of these improvements and the estimated cost of building what would be in phase two. The numbers are roughly the same, and you can see the math here. And then this is phase three, total cost about the same as phase one, sort of in the same ballpark, and this is the percentage. So the total then, so this chart is all three phases. This is everything in aggregate. This is the full 1,000 acres. Total estimated cost to build everything at full build out, $1.65 billion. And the valuation of these tools that are proposed to be used, when you tally those up, it's about 14% of that total project cost. So that's our effort at a very high level on a very large scale, comparing it to using the comparison that you're used to seeing, and this gives you a ballpark estimate of what those numbers look like. So then we get to the city's decision-making framework. And I think the most important point on this slide is that there is no debt being requested to be issued by the city. One of the things that I worked on many years ago, I think it was in 22, a quick story. We were working with the land reserve team, and there was a point where I said to Brian Head, our city attorney, and I think there were some other people in the room, what I need to do to really focus on this and to dig in back in 22 was I need a week off to focus on this and try to collect our thoughts. And what I said, I need to pretend like I'm taking a vacation week and just go work on this. And he said, go ahead and do that. So there's a week on my calendar back in 22 where we put Dave's out on vacation, but I actually worked on a set of spreadsheets that would have led to a debt financing. So it was a massive spreadsheet that I built that estimated all of the revenues that would flow to the city, and I worked with our financial advisor in an effort to come up with what a debt financing structure would look like. Bad news for me, we never used that set of spreadsheets that I built. Good news for you, the request is for the city to not issue debt. The financing will be done entirely by the private sector. So my spreadsheet that I built became irrelevant, but actually some of it was used in what Land Reserve put together that became the data that we're using here. So one of the most important points from this discussion item is the city's not being requested to issue debt. Benefits for the city, one of the things that we're going to have when the plan comes forward, the first plan is there will be a cost-benefit analysis that will show you for each taxing district what the benefits are to each taxing district, and you'll see some concrete numbers. So another benefit for the city, it sees the property developed presumably to its highest and best use. And this is where it's a bit of speculation, but if you were to pose the question, if not this, then what? What else would happen? It's probably the case that over who knows how long, the property would eventually develop, would be sold and developed, but probably in a much more piecemeal fashion like I described to you. We would not be taking advantage of the opportunity that we have to work with one property owner. I think it's almost inevitable that land will be developed, but as you've seen, and as you're familiar with, it can take a long time for some properties to develop based on all sorts of factors. So a benefit to the city is I think this plan would result in what we could argue is the highest and best use because we're doing this in such a comprehensive manner with a very interested and very patient landowner at this point. So those are some of my comments on your decision-making framework. And I'll end with this, the next steps. What we're planning to do. Tonight, we'd like to receive your feedback. In 2 days, we'll be in front of the Planning Commission, and for the LCRA plan for the north area, there's 3 factual findings that you, the City Council, ultimately has to make. One of those findings is the plan that we're moving forward with consistent with the city's comprehensive plan? So on Thursday night this week, we'll take that issue to the Planning Commission, and we'll be asking them to make that finding, make a recommendation to you, which you'll consider later at the, if we stay on schedule, the June 16th meeting. So the Planning Commission and then the LCRA Board on May 27th will be considering their components of the plan that we're moving forward with, and then if we proceed, we'll be holding the public hearing for the LCRA plan and the CID on June 16th. And then after that, repeat the same process for the south area. So that's what the remainder of this schedule shows. Going back to the Planning Commission, then the LCRA Board, and then if we stay on schedule, back in front of you for the south area on August 4th. So that's a summary of where we're at. I think we've been making fantastic progress since the last time we talked with you. And this is where things stand today. This is a summary, an update for you, and I'd be happy to answer questions or educate as needed.
We have some questions. Mayor Pro Tem Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you for what has been years and years of work on this for you and for the folks from PRI and Land Reserve. This is an amazing opportunity. Like when you say that, like Lee Summit has never seen this, we will never see anything like this again. Most cities never get this opportunity. So I'm just to lay the table, I'm really excited about this. I love the idea of being able to master plan all the infrastructure for this area. When you talk about things being done piecemeal, it's not just that it won't develop as well or it's quickly, it's that we can't make good decisions up front that when you're building a little section, a little section, a little section, it's just not as efficient. It's not as well thought out. It's not done as well for our community as it would be if we have this opportunity to do it all kind of at once, right? So
yes.
To me, that's really exciting.
I agree with that.
I have a couple of clarifying questions, and then I wanted to walk through some of the actual incentives and then talk through a little bit about the revenues and kind of how we're going to handle the service needs and that kind of thing. So I'm trying to get it all straight in my head. So when you talk about the fixed pilots, is that this is just purely for clarification for me, is that a fixed pilot, or is that a percentage of the actual assessment? Like, are we going to be fixing the tax level for each one, or will we just see what the county assesses them at and then they'll pay a percentage of that?
Here's what I think will happen on a project-by-project basis. We will take these metrics, and I'm almost certain that the applicants will seek a fixed pilot schedule. That's the most common method we've used, and so I think it would be a fixed pilot schedule based on our assessment of the project when it comes forward and the valuation of that project.
Okay. And then on the slide where you showed the total 14% abatement level, is that just for those incentive pieces, like not the incentive, but on your other slide you showed some of it is tax redirection for public infrastructure. So is this the redirection for public infrastructure total value, or is it just the like abatement for industrial facilities? Like what all is included in that number of benefit?
Okay, so I think the way to answer that question would be the CID revenues. So these amounts are what will actually fund the public improvements. These amounts up here are, let me flip back to this slide to put this in context of what we're talking about here in these columns. The business attraction benefit, the abatement benefit, just for the industrial and residential R2+, that is this amount up here. So if you were to look at, so if the question is, how do I line up the inducement benefits and the funding public infrastructure money, that's what this chart shows. So the blue would essentially be the inducement component of those incentives, and the green would be the actual dollars to fund the public improvements. I think that may answer your question.
But that's just the CID part. On the, sorry, I'm going to make you keep flipping back and forth between these charts all night. Sure. So there's the 25% that's being redirected for like Todd George Parkway or for the sewer improvements. That's not a CID, right? That's real property tax.
Okay, so.
Is that included in this number, or is that not considered abatement because that's all public infrastructure? I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer. I'm just trying to understand.
No, I follow what you're asking. Yeah. So as an example, let's just take, let's say there's an industrial project and we're in year 1 or 2. According to this schedule, the tax redirect, so we would be abating those property taxes. And according to this chart for that project, in my example, 20% of that revenue stream would be reimposed as CID special assessments.
Oh, okay.
And that would become the revenue. So we're abating a certain portion of the taxes and reimposing that amount as special assessments, and that's what generates the revenue to pay for the public improvements.
Okay. Learn something new every day. That's fascinating. Okay, so looking back at the big multicolor, the other big multicolor slide that shows okay, that one. Okay, so this is sort of saying like table stakes for any project that's approved in this area. If it's an industrial project, years 1 through 10, 20% of the normal tax revenue will go to public infrastructure. And then 75%, whereas normally we would kind of vet these project by project and decide what's appropriate, but we're saying we think given this area, given what we want to induce here and the value of providing some additional certainty to someone who might look at coming here, we're going to say the assumption is, absent some factor that would prevent it, is that industrial project years 1 through 10 would get a 75% abatement. Whereas
Correct.
Normally we would vet those project by project, but in this case, we're going to say we're pretty sure that that's what we're going to give them, right?
Yes. So to be clear on this point, if we move forward with this structure, we would be signaling to the development community, this is what you, City Council, is pre-approving and is locked in to provide that certainty if that user wants to come to the project, but come to the area. Mm-hmm. But you will still have your normal zoning approvals associated with every one of these projects. You will still have the full discretion to say yes or no from a zoning and entitlement standpoint to that project as you normally do.
Okay, but we're kind of putting out there as a pretty firm policy, like this is what we expect to offer. And also that we're not going to offer more than this. If you're an industrial project, we're not going to abate you 95% because we need 20% to go for our infrastructure.
Correct.
Right, so it just kind of sets a clear assumption?
Yes.
Okay. but single family will pay full freight. So our
Correct.
school districts, as they get more kids in them, they're getting the additional revenue that they need to pay for that.
Correct.
That kind of
That
thing.
is the case for the single family. And then for the R2 plus, there's some more discussion to be had. And then you can look into, there's some other data points there. How many what's the student age population in those types of housing units versus single family, et cetera. You can, run down a rabbit hole with all sorts of data. But yes, that's what you're
Okay.
saying is a good summary.
Okay. So the column in green, that's the money that's going to get sent to our public improvements, the sewer, the roads, the stormwater, all that.
Right.
The column in yellow is what we're going to get. Well, all the taxing jurisdictions according to their normal shares like we've talked about.
Correct.
And then the column in orange is an abatement to induce businesses to come here like we do a lot with different industrial projects and like we just talked about with a multifamily project.
Correct. That is the land reserve request.
And then
in
the
that
double
case.
stars. So office and retail, we're saying that those might have the opportunity to get an abatement. So that 75% might not be 75% that we're getting if we decide to do an abatement, but that would be more case by case. Is that right?
Correct. It could be that. It could be an adjustment of these numbers, and it could be some other type of incentive also. I'm not quite, I don't have an example in mind at the moment because this is pretty comprehensive, but the goal of these asterisks here is to let you know that these could request, if we have a home run retailer of some sort that makes some additional request, and it's a very desirable retailer for some, in some case, the door is still open to make that request.
If we get Costco 2.0, we can discuss it.
Right.
Okay. So then, the other questions I have are maybe more for Mr. Elam or Mr. Dunning. I'm not sure who would take these, but when we look at kind of the long-term costs to the city for things like all the normal public services that we provide, the fire service, the police service, the codes enforcement, how do you, when you look at this, do you feel confident that the revenues generated by this site will be able to fund those services? Do you see any gaps that the city's going to have maybe during some of these 1 through 10 year periods? And just kind of what's the framework that you use to think through that question?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and this is something that we've been kind of kicking around quite a bit, obviously. And it's not I'll say 100% a straightforward black, white, yes or no answer, primarily because of all the different variables that are at play here. But the way we look at this is we do look at these being phased in over time. We look at our current service levels. We look at the land use, what that land use is projected to produce from a tax revenue perspective, as well as a service delivery impacts on that. And something like a way I was just looking at this was if this was to just magically pop up out of the ground today, all at once, and the numbers that would be projected to generate at that versus what our current budget is, and what our current budget and service delivery, we would have to provide services to 10% more of our community, essentially, if it was developed. And the numbers on that quick kind of back of the napkin thing, look like essentially almost a 50% increase in revenue associated with what it was projected for the area if it was just to magically pop up today at a net present value. We already talked about that net present value concept. So long-winded way of saying it's a complicated answer, but yes, we are confident that with the timing of everything and the rollout of this, as we continue to monitor this, that this structure is a structure that we've essentially utilized several times in the past, and are comfortable replicating it kind of on this scale. That all being said, continuously needs to be monitored. Our service demands fluctuate, things change. Projections are just that, projections on both sides. But the other benefit of doing this is again, it is measured over time, and we're able to have an outlook and a conversation about all of that when it comes forward.
And when we talk about long-term planning, we've known this property is going to develop for a long time. So when we do our long-term forecast, things like where to put a new police station, or where to put a new fire station, or what with the school district, where they're going to build their next elementary school. We've all been sort of anticipating that this is coming and preparing for it, right? This isn't coming out of the blue.
Yes, that's correct. One of the great things about when this property kind of started to become available for development again was at the time that we were redoing our strategic plan and our comprehensive plan. So we had the ability to work hand in hand with land reserve and property reserve at that time in order to incorporate that into our current comprehensive plan. Also, as part of that comprehensive plan, we did do fiscal impact modeling based off of the land uses that were projected as well, and we even played with that model quite a bit to determine levels of incentives for typical land uses and things like that as we were kind of analyzing the land use impacts of some of these things. Again, I'll just caveat a lot of that. I'm an engineer. I like really precise models and precise things. There is a lot of assumptions in a lot of that, but it's still a pretty good model.
Right, it's a pretty high level right now, and we'll have to drill down into it as we get deeper into all this, right? Thank you, that's very helpful. I guess, I don't know if this is a Mr. Bushek question, so when you talk about we have to approve each project as it comes through, kind of what's the enforcement mechanism for these percentages that you have up here? Like what is it? Not that I would compel a future council to give a 75% abatement to an industrial project, but if we're saying to the development community, this area we are planning on this level of incentive, like how do they feel confident in that if we still have a lot of discretion? Like what would that look like when it came through to us? Would it be like, here's the standard policy and so here's the recommendation, or like what would it be?
Well, when I was talking about your level of discretion, what I was referring to is the normal zoning process that you go through. Rezoning or preliminary development plan, as the case may be, might be a special use permit. Whatever the zoning approvals are, you have the normal level of discretion to say yes or no to the project. But I think the intention would be that, particularly for industrial, this is the framework that we would be using for all the industrial projects when they come in. And that is informed to a large extent by the climate that Lee Summit has to essentially compete in for industrial development, which is different than the other types of land uses on here. When it comes to residential, office, and retail, I think it's fine to look just, for the most part, within our city to achieve a fair balance, and you're comparing this commercial project to that commercial project, this residential to that residential. When it comes to industrial, we largely have, in this scale of industrial we're talking about here, we have to look at what other communities are doing, because this type of incentive package had already been provided by other surrounding cities to industrial development before this city council approved its first incentivized industrial project. So,
I mean, I understand why the numbers are what they are. I guess what I'm asking is more like what would be different in that process? So like today we had a whole conceptual presentation about a possible incentive. Would we just go straight to PDP and zoning and just skip all of the talk of incentives, and that's just kind of built into the process? Do we still pass that? Like, how does that work?
I think the answer would be yes, unless it was a project requesting an additional incentive of some sort based on the particular need or that user. I think it would, and this is a good question, I hadn't really thought about it, but the conceptual incentive requests that you frequently hear for a lot of the bigger projects, that wouldn't happen, because if this framework works, meaning if you approve it and we move forward with it, the large infrastructure items will have already been solved. And so the only thing that we'll really be focusing on is this down here, which is, and now that I'm saying this, I have to give some more thought to precisely how that works. But the point is, the only thing that's really left open to discussion is what are the localized improvements that this project or this developer has for their specific project that's 12 acres or 20 acres or whatever it is, and how might this half of the extra sales tax be used to address those local improvements. Otherwise, I think it would eliminate the conceptual presentations for these projects, because this would already be established.
And I think for this area, it makes a lot of sense to me, because one, like just the certainty is an attraction in and of itself to bring in business, knowing that that this structure is already in place makes Lee Summit a more attractive place to invest in. And two, like when we talk about efficiencies, like it's also more efficient for you not to write 300 separate CID and TIF plans just to have one master one that we are executing. It's a lot of savings in terms of our time. If we know what
That's a good point,
what we
too.
want to do with this, it's much more efficient for us as a city to have one clear policy that we then execute on over a period of time. So
Yes,
yeah.
I mean, that's actually a good point that I hadn't really gotten around to thinking too much about yet, which is, as these projects come forward, you'll be going through your normal zoning process, but a lot of the time and brain power and paper we spend on those items would largely be eliminated for
We
some
can
of
just
these.
decide,
Yeah.
is it an appropriate use of zoning? Is it a good fit for the city, and not spend all of our time renegotiating this? But it does mean that, like, the steps we're taking right now are really important, because these are going to have a huge impact over decades
Yes.
for how our city functions.
I
So
would
I
agree with
appreciate you answering all my questions, because I think this is one of the most consequential things that we're ever going to discuss on this dais. So, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Atkins.
Thank you. I do have a few questions. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I got a list. Mayor Pro Tem Shields alluded to this, and you guys talked about the strategic plan. So did the strategic, are you saying that the strategic plan was informed because we knew the land was coming online? Or how did egg or chicken or the egg? How did that process work?
I'll chime in a little bit there. So timing was referenced, just couldn't be better, because the city was doing our comprehensive plan. And at the time, we knew that Property Reserve, Land Reserve was looking at master planning theirs too. So the efforts were independent. We didn't collaborate a ton during that time. We said, yeah, go do your envisioning, your master planning, and we'll do ours, and we'll see how these line up. So that's generally how it occurred, and then they came together. I'll let Ryan chime in, because he was one of the leaders through that comprehensive plan, but that's what I recall, kind of the overall effort was independently working, but then it all came together.
My answer was going to be a lot shorter. I was going to say both.
Fair, fair. And may I ask Mr. Buswell, you guys decided to put everything online during this time? What was your impetus for deciding this was the time to do it?
Yeah, it's a combination. We think Kansas City metro area as a whole has just been like kind of a quiet, metro, very steady. If you look at kind of the last 50 years, very steady land appreciation, very steady land growth. There has been an uptick in the last 5-10 years. And so, again, it was 7 years ago that it was started to be discussed. If you look at a number of metrics, truth is Kansas City, Columbus, Indianapolis, there's a lot of kind of Midwestern cities that have really popped. And the truth is we have projects in a number of those other cities as well. And so quite frankly, it's a great metro. And so that we actually have other projects in kind of the Kansas City metro area as well. But quite frankly, Lee's Summit is our biggest. We have 4,000 acres.
This is the largest. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So-
And did you, what was the general population you were shooting for inside the 1,000 acres?
Yeah, there isn't any specific. Quite frankly, we start any one of our master plan communities with very open mind, and so it's been great. And I would echo what the city manager, what Mark said is, we try and look at what are the city's needs and what are the city's wants. I mean, one example of this is our meetings with the school district. We've met with the school district, I don't know how many times. I mean, even me personally and my team's probably met with them 3 times as much as I have about where do the elementary schools go? Where do the middle schools go? Where's the high school? How does this fit? And where do we think the densities are going to end up that will then require an elementary school? And, how are kids going to walk there, right? So even looking at trails and paths and, how do kids get to school? And what's traffic going to be like on those streets? And again, we've been having those conversations for years. So those are all the type of things that we're trying to consider.
Thank you. Another one is around tenants. So how, at this point in the process, since you've been working on it so many years, do you have anchor tenants that are already in mind?
We do have on this Arborside piece, we have started to work with a number of potential industrial users, and so that's kind of where we are right now. That's our main focus of just sort of a catalyst. Just even thinking about the road infrastructure, which is huge, right? You saw $32 million just on this piece. So just for the roads, $32 million, right? And so that's where a lot of our focus has been now. But again, we've also been planning for parks and, residential, and there'll be retail here as well, we're sure. So we have a sense of that, but I would say, most of our discussions have really been industrial and single-family to date.
Okay. And that's good, because I've already heard a lot of people in the community asking about keeping the trails and keeping access to the lake that's behind.
We literally named it Arborside because we think the distinctiveness, you will always have this beautiful view of trees, right, forever, because you're right next to Lake Jacomo. And we want to lean into that. We want trails going into the park. We want easy access to it, and all of our design and kind of concepts about that community is to enhance the availability of nature.
Could you summarize the length of the phases, phase 1, 2, and 3, 10 years each? I'm sorry, I know.
No, it's a great question. I would say, I'm going to ballpark this. It's 10 to 20 years will be in total, right? So in total of this 1,000 acres will be 10 to 20 years. And some of it just depends on absorption, right? If there's a lot of industrial need, we'll go through industrial faster. If there's a lot of, and again, we're trying to meet the market on what are the right uses based on our constraints, right? And also enhancing the community. So there's a lot of kind of balls we're trying to juggle. And so, but I think 10 to 15 years is realistic. 20 years is probably if it's a little slower, and 10 years is if it's pretty fast.
And thank you for answering all these. I might have more questions, I think maybe for Mr. Bushek at this point.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Mr. Bushek, in terms of the city and future risk, because this is amazing because it does, the strategic plan laid out exactly why we need activity centers, and it all matches perfectly. And in terms of phasing, if the second or third phases end up not being as populated, or if there's some act of God that or doesn't get completed, is there any risk left over for the city that we're not accounting for with undone properties that aren't, that end up getting piecemealed, I guess? Like, what's the commitment level?
Yeah, so I think the best way to answer that question would be when it comes time to do financings and pay for the public improvements, there will need to be an alignment of the projects that are being proposed and the revenue that they are projected to generate and our capacity to fund the infrastructure from that development. That's probably the best answer I can provide at this point, because we don't know, sort of the discussion you just had, we don't know precisely what projects and when, meaning over what period of time is it, how frequently do those projects come. But one of the things that we'll be focused on is when it starts to look like we're reaching a critical mass where we've got projects and it's time to finance one of these major improvements, we will be looking at the projects that are proposed. And then now, to get to the answer to your question, for the projects that aren't being proposed at that point, if we do it properly, the risk should be fairly minimal, because we'll be sizing the financings based on the projects that are about to happen, as opposed to counting on things that may or may not happen in the future. I know that's a very general answer, but that's probably the best answer I can provide at this point, meaning we would not try to rely upon property that's not going to develop to generate the revenues to pay for the financing.
It's pay as you go, or it's deduct as you go.
The financings will be based on the projects as they come forward, and so hopefully we won't run into the problem that you're asking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's not a need for an expiration date on the agreement in case
No, not really.
the master developer wouldn't.
I'd have to think about that question a little bit more in terms of a maximum expiration period, but no, I don't think that's really in play.
Okay, because the benefit is that it is all master developed, and so it's all the same team managing everything, so they will stay till it's fully developed, and there's not a mechanism to make sure that for some reason the project doesn't get halfway
And I
done.
would say that of all of the potential landowners that we're dealing with, this may be one of the best landowners on that point, which is, I know from our discussions and their past practice that they, so Land Reserve will serve as the master. They can talk to you more about this if you'd like to hear more, but they will serve as the master developer. There will be a package of covenants, conditions, and restrictions that are placed on the property that restrict certain land uses. In simple terms, there are certain land uses that the church doesn't want to develop in this area. So they will remain as the master developer, and I think we will be working long-term with the same party. And that's a substantial benefit given who that party is.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that clarification on the CCRs. And then, okay, so I think my last question is about the highway, because with recent developments with MoDOT not funding anything and our traffic on 470, how does this population impact?
Do we have any traffic update we can?
Sorry, sorry, that was a big one, but it's just such a hard thing. I don't know if it's fixable.
I know it's a concern, and right now it continues to be an unfunded interstate need. There is no funding, and right now we haven't had a traffic study. I know the Land Reserve is working on doing a master plan traffic impact analysis for the area based on their concept plan, so that we know we're right-sizing the improvements that are part of the project, like Todd George Parkway, the intersections and the other infrastructure that's around, just like they're doing their study for stormwater, doing their studies for the water demands and sewer demands. But with regard to the interstate, no, that's not something that's part of the proposal to improve it. I would just encourage us to continue to work with the state and work with whoever contacts we have in Washington, D.C., and encourage that, at some point that gets a funding solution identified.
Do we know at what point, if we build without a solution to 470, at what point does it become a loss instead of a gain to the city, to the infrastructure of the, of the Douglas exits and the backup from 50 Highway? Like, at what point does it?
If you're asking at what point does it become like a critical failure that chokes, I don't know.
I know it's impossible to gauge.
I mean, that's not something that really we track. I know that the state will look at that. Right now, I-70 is their priority, and they continue to look at the other states in the metropolitan areas of the state and says, what is their greatest need? I think I-35 might be one of those, and some others around the metropolitan area. We just earlier today had a conversation about the MoDOT unfunded needs, and that will be making its way through Mid-America Regional Council as a way of planning priorities for these projects that have no funding source identified. And I-470 is on that list. It's not tier one. The state has a very different perspective. I know we experienced delay there on 470, but all in perspective, that delay is not as significant as the delay you might experience on I-70 or on I-29 or some other major corridors that are within even our metropolitan area. So we'll get there. I wish I could tell you when. I don't know.
Mr. Park, I might help you a little bit. So Councilmember Atkins, that's a great question. And it's something that previous councils, as Mr. Park said, and administrative leaders, we have gone and knocked on the door at the state capitol and in Washington. As a council, we will continue to discuss this topic. This is a very important topic, and we will work with the developers to continue to address the interstate challenges. What we have done and has been discussed quite a bit is control what we can control, and that's Todd George, Colburn, Lee Summit Road, the arterial roads that will help reduce some of the traffic along the major interstate route. So, but we'll keep talking about this as a council.
Absolutely. And land use has a big influence on that. And as was mentioned earlier, you have every opportunity to review those applications as they come in on a case-by-case basis to see, is that increment too much to bear? And you have to just make that judgment, what your threshold is as a community.
Thank you. I appreciate Mr. Parks. Okay, and last question is, Mr. Buswell, does Land Reserve invest in advocacy?
In
state level advocacy?
At the state level, generally no. As far as, we're happy to talk to anybody. So the truth is, as far as reaching out to folks and encourage in that way, for sure. We are not lobbyists, nor do we hire lobbyists to do such things. But we want to work with the community in any ways we can help there. We would love to.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. That's my question.
Great job. Thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully, to Councilmember Adkins' point, hopefully our federal lobbyists can help us with some of that funding, or secure some of that funding. But Surprise, Arizona, that's somewhere you guys developed, correct? How many acres was that?
Yeah, so we have Surprise, Arizona, home of Kansas City Royal Spring Training, 4,000 acres. And so we're about 2,000 acres through that. So that community was master planned 2003 to 2006, just in time for the recession. So that's what we were trying to, get there, get everything ready to go to then not do anything. But that's actually not true. We did a ton of work during the recession, including working with Arizona Department of Transportation to put in the 303 loop on our property during the recession. So that actually, because we're a long-term owner, with a long-term vision, we were able to take some steps there so that then when coming out of the recession, the property was really primed to go. So yeah, we're about halfway through that master plan community, and yeah.
Okay, that's good to know that. I mean, yeah, you guys have good experience with this large chunk of land.
Yes.
And then was there financing plan and incentive ask and everything, was it set up semi-similar?
Very different, but there were similar concepts, right?
Okay.
I mean, so one of the fundamental issues nationwide that Mr. Bushek talked about, it's not just the city of Lee Summit of saying, hey, how do we do development? 40 years ago, the city would have built Todd George themselves. They would have paid every dime. Developer would have paid zero, right? Well, the economics of taxes and how it works within cities is developers now pay for some portion of it, or they front the money. This is very normal, right? And so we do this all over America. And so how do you make development happen when if the city were just to do it themselves, then it would just take so long that kind of the opportunity to meet the market has passed, or it takes so long, the value goes down. So in that sense, we did have certain things with the City of Surprise to incentivize for us to put in roads and infrastructure so that the development could move forward, and then we could be reimbursed over time. So very similar concepts as this, but the mechanism was actually a lot different, but conceptually very similar.
Okay, thank you. And I know you mentioned, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what you said, but it was before a lot of people were up here. But you mentioned that even if we hit another recession, you guys are in the financial spot to where that's not going to harm you. You don't have to sell it off. You can hold for the long term, and you guys can still develop responsibly, even if it takes quite a while.
That's correct. And the example I did use was Surprise, Arizona is, we spent, Surprise, Arizona, I think we owned for about 25 or 30 years before we got the entitlements. So then we did kind of this master planning practice that took a couple of years. Right when we finished that practice, again, 2006, we started doing some sales. And if we had a bunch of debt on our property, we would have had to sell we would have kind of fire sale a bunch of pieces to finance anything else, or maybe fire sale the whole project. The only thing we sold were small little chunks, 100% consistent with our original master plan. We didn't make one change to our master plan through all of that. The only change that we made subsequently was we did have a huge regional mall that was, designed in 2003, and regional malls where you come out of the recession, and regional malls don't make sense anymore. So we did have to go back to the city and reimagine what this retail was supposed to be. It ended up being an outdoor retail center that's been wildly successful. It's mostly built out now, but that's a good example of, for us, if it was some other developer and you had to pay off a loan, you would just, hey, I got to sell this retail piece because I got to get some capital back. That's not the way we look at this. We look at long-term investment in the community, and we believe if you do it right, you're still going to come out on top.
Okay, yeah, I think that was important for a lot of people to hear that. But
definitely.
Yeah. That's all that I have for right now, so thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you, Mayor. So I on here, this says industrial On some other things I'm looking at, it's saying light industrial. Can you give me an idea of what you're thinking for industrial/light industrial?
Hi, Mike Van Buskirk with Newmark Zimmer. Good question, as always. I think if we really just use our zoning code is what I would go to, but when I think of heavy industrial, the first thing I go to is smokestacks, noise, and pollution type things. Light industrial would line up similar to the projects that we've done here in Lee Summit recently. So think of Lee Summit Logistics Center, some of the buildings that the Ward Development Company has done as well. So more of a Class A industrial, which could have a manufacturing component inside of it, but we don't hear it or smell it. This is what I usually delineate.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so let me just kind of recap what I've heard, and please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So basically what we're being asked to do is take this financing plan and approve it and say, yep, we're going to do that for this 1,000+ acres, and everything that goes on in here is going to follow this with the exception of the asterisks. And that's how we're going to pay for everything, right? So it's kind of going to be like our economic development guide for the area.
Sure.
Like we have for the whole city that we put
summary.
together years ago. This is just for this area, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then we will still, as developers come and want to develop in the area, they will purchase the land from the master developer, bring their plan forward, tell us what they want to do, give us their ask, and we will approve or not approve, just like we do today, based on application.
Yes, that's a good summary.
Okay, and then I have a whole bunch of scribbling notes, so just give me a second.
I do too,
I'm sorry.
so go ahead.
So in the phases, we said it's going to be 3 phases. And can you go back to the first phase? Yeah. So in the first phase, which is where we're going to have some residential, not a lot, mostly commercial and light industrial is what it looks like.
Yes, I'm not sure about the light industrial in the first, I'd have to take a look at the map, but that sounds correct.
Okay. And so for the commercial, I'm looking at it. I promise I'm not lying to you.
Okay, sure.
So for the commercial and the light industrial,
yeah,
we're going to have a 14% abatement in the first phase. Total.
So if I can jump in real quick, because I think this is the second or third time that I've heard kind of a similar question in there. And I think we've just got a lot of percentages going around everywhere, so it's getting difficult. This slide that has the financing plan on it, that's the abatement percentages, if you will.
The guide.
The guide.
Yeah.
The other slide that has this, that 14% there, that's our traditional incentives to cost or benefit to cost ratio that we use to kind of normalize all those projects. So the value of that incentive, if you will, is about 14% compared to the overall project as itself. So that's not the actual
Okay,
abatement
I see what you're
value.
saying. So
Yeah,
this
that's
isn't
our
what we're
metric.
saying is going to come through, and eventually this whole area is going to be approved to have a 14% abatement.
Yes.
That's not what we're saying.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, because
that's,
I was like, how, if we are looking at every application, can we get to this? Okay, thank you. I am much better now.
So that number again is, you see we got a total
Yeah.
project cost. We're
Mhm.
anticipating that there's going to be, the land reserve and their development partners are going to have over a $500 million investment
Right.
on here. And through this combination of 4 different incentive tools
Mm-hmm.
to use to pay for the infrastructure, that total of that is going to be that $71 million from a net present value.
Right.
I think it might be. Is it net present value?
It's probably mixed.
It's probably a mix between, sorry, overcomplicated it. But it's, yeah, that 14% is just 71 divided by 506. So this
Okay.
number here divided by that number here.
Okay,
Kind
so
of
that's just what we
our
think it's gonna cost to develop it, what we think it's gonna cost for the infrastructure.
Yeah, what we
Okay.
think the value of the incentive is and what we think the value of the investment is at this point in time. So that again, that's kind of our metric, not to be confused with the abatement percentage, which as we're sitting here, is confusing.
Yes, yes, but I'm with you now. It took me a while to get there. I was so confused for a second.
Yep.
Okay, well, for more than a second, but, okay, what else do I have? Hold on, let me look 1 second. And then the phases, we think the entire area is gonna take between 10 and 20 years to do, not just each phase. Is that correct? Thank you. Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any other names pop up, so I have a couple comments and questions. Can someone confirm, I think I've asked this in the past, with the agreement we have with the developer regarding Todd George improvements, will that entire stretch between Colburn and Woods Chapel be improved in this first phase, or in this next phase?
Yeah, it's one project.
One project?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, appreciate that. And then it was mentioned, because that is something that I know residents will continue to ask, they've asked for a number of years, there's some sort of collaboration and coordination with the park, Jackson County Parks, I assume, with Fleming Park and
There have been
Jacomo and all that?
discussions, yes.
And so,
I think that's probably a question for the Land Reserve team, because you've talked with the county most?
As mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of coordination over a lot of years on this. School district, both school districts, by the way, have been involved in this process, especially, do not forget, in this north ground, that everything north of Strother is in the Blue Springs School District, everything south Lee Summit. On parks, most of our discussion has been coordination with Lee Summit Parks Department on future park locations, both in the north area here as well as in South Lee Summit. Very, very high-level discussion with the county. We really haven't gone very far with them, but I can tell you from, I think maybe one of the slides show it, but it was mentioned earlier, connections, trail connections. I mean, the trail connections we have here are amazing. The residential areas that'll connect right into what is an existing trail system that honestly, until I started working on this project, I didn't even know that was there at Lake Jacomo, and I grew up in the area. So yeah, our goal is to work with the county and help activate that. Beneficial for everybody.
and I don't know, this is all still conceptual, but just curious what dialogue there was, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of discussions, though, with Lee Summit Parks.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Van Buskirk. So I'm not seeing any objections, and I know the intent of this is to get some kind of perspective and conceptual response. So I think most people up here are supportive of us moving forward, proceeding with this process. For me, my perspective is, just words that I've heard tonight from my colleagues, talk about plans, all these plans that have been coordinated within the city, planning department, strategic plan, PRI, even the airport right across the highway had a plan that has been revised recently. I keep hearing the word responsible development, strategic development, efficient. I think Mayor Pro Tem mentioned the word efficient. It's a very efficient process and plan for us to move forward. And I think that's why we are looked upon as a model in this metro area, because that's kind of how we do things around here. And we appreciate, Mr. Buswell, you coming in town again tonight, and your team, for all the effort you all have put in, and the entire team. But this is something I think our community embraces, and we look forward to this partnership. And I know our administrators, we know they've spent a lot of time and effort into this as well. So we have a few new colleagues up here, but I think this has been very informative, Mr. Bushek, so we appreciate that a whole lot.
Thank you.
And Unless there's any other questions, thank you very much.
Yep, thanks.
Appreciate it.
This was good feedback. There are various questions that have been asked and points of data that we will bring forward and items that we will address as we move through the process.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, we're going to go ahead and push through. You guys good with that? All right, we're going to proceed with the agenda. Ms. Fowler Curry, what's that? Oh, okay, she gets grab some water. Do you mind reading the resolutions for us? No.
Resolution number 2605, a resolution authorizing the mayor to appoint successor directors to the Southside Plaza Community Improvement District.
Great, thank you. Resolution has been read. We have a motion. It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Shields and a second by Councilmember Atkins. If there are no questions, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. Please record that vote.
Resolution number 26-06, a resolution supporting the state of Missouri's Opportunity Zone designation for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields and a second by Councilmember Cravens. We do have a comment. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wondered, will we have some discussion about the Opportunity Zone designation at some point? I don't know that we need to go into it tonight, but I would love to hear about those new opportunities for the city and how we might utilize those. Is that something that staff will bring back at some point later, or I don't want to derail us tonight?
Sure. I think we have someone that's ready to go.
There we go.
It's a great question, so thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, there we go. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jessica Vandevort de Montiel, Assistant Director of Grants and Administration Development Services. I'm just going to provide a brief overview of the Opportunity Zone program and staff's recommendation to support the nomination of Census Tract 13706 under the updated Opportunity Zone 2.0 framework. So opportunity zones are a federal economic development tool intended to encourage long-term private investment in eligible communities through capital gains tax incentives. The program is designed to help attract private capital and support redevelopment and reinvestment activity within designated areas. Recent federal legislation authorized a new round of eligible census tract designations under the Opportunity Zone 2.0 framework. Census Tract 13706, which includes a portion of downtown Lee Summit, is eligible for consideration as part of the competitive state nomination process. Take a look at the map here. It's a pretty small census tract just south of Chipman, east of Maine, west of 291, and generally along 3rd and 5th on the south side. Staff believes this designation aligns well with the city's existing downtown investments and ongoing implementation of the 2022 Downtown Market Plaza Redevelopment Plan. While the designation itself does not provide direct funding, it could help catalyze additional private reinvestment, mixed-use development, and long-term economic activity within the downtown area. It's important to note that the designation would not obligate the city to provide funding or additional incentives. Rather, it positions the city to benefit from a federal investment tool intended to support redevelopment and economic growth. All right, what's our timeline? The city intends to submit an application to the Missouri Department of Economic Development for consideration. Because the nomination process is competitive and the number of eligible tracts exceeds the number of designations available, this resolution, along with letters of support being coordinated from community stakeholders, would help strengthen the city's application as the state evaluates nominations prior to the governor submitting final selections to the U.S. Treasury later this summer. That's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have.
Great job. Any questions? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I wasn't sure if I still had the
you have the floor. Yes, okay. You
do. Thank you. That was really good information. I love looking for creative ways to catalyze development in our city. In addition to the vote tonight, assuming that we vote affirmatively on this resolution, is there anything else that we as a council can do? Is this something that our legislative committee should be talking about, reaching out to our elected officials, or what's the best thing that we can do to be supportive of this?
Yes, so we, like I mentioned, we have letters of support that's coming from folks, but after we submit the application, any advocacy that you all can do with other folks at the state level. This will be with the Missouri Department of Economic Development, and the governor's office makes those decisions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can definitely
Thank
do
you,
that.
thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to say your name, Vandevort de Montiel.
Vandevort de Montiel.
French?
It's Dutch and Spanish.
Oh, wow.
De Montiel
It
is
threw
of
me
the
off.
Montiel family.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Great. Thank you.
All right, so the motion's been made. We have a second. Any other further questions? If not, please cast your vote. All right, we got all the votes. 9 yes, and motion passes. Thank you. All right, last one, Ms. Arcuri.
Resolution number 2607, a resolution authorizing the mayor and finance director to execute the resolutions and agreement for the commercial deposits accounts and related to services with UMB Bank N.A.
Great. Motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields and a second by Councilmember Carlisle. Any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. Please record that vote. All right. Takes us to proposed ordinances forwarded from committee. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move for second reading of Bill number 26-092, an ordinance approving the City of Lee Summit Entitlement Community Development Block Grant CDBG 2026-27 Annual Action Plan.
Great. Thank you. Motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields, second by Councilmember Carlisle. Yes, Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you. I just have a quick question, and this was seen some time ago in committee. So just, did we get the amount we were thinking we were going to get? Did we get shorted?
Hello, good evening again. Jessica Vandevort de Montiel, Assistant Director of Grants and Administration. Yes, we got more money than we expected. We got about $9,000 more, and it was equally distributed amongst our partners who are with us tonight.
Great, perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Other questions?
That it? You good? Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Then no further questions. Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. Please for adoption.
Thank you. I now move for adoption of Bill number 26-092, an ordinance approving the City of Lee Summit Entitlement Community Development Block Grant CDBG 2026-27 Annual Action Plan.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields, second by Councilmember Carlisle. Any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. Ordinance is adopted 9-0. Thank you. Please record that vote. Takes us to action item 9B. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move for second reading of Bill number 26-093, an ordinance approving a memorandum of understanding between Jackson County, Missouri and the City of Lee Summit, Missouri for the distribution of $12,788 from the 2025 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant JAG funds and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields, second by Councilmember Carlisle. Any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Shields.
Thank you. I move for adoption of Bill number 26-093, an ordinance approving a memorandum of understanding between Jackson County, Missouri and the City of Lee Summit, Missouri for the distribution of $12,788 from the 2025 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grants JAG funds and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Motion's been made for adoption by Mayor Pro Tem Shields and second by Councilmember Carlisle. Any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. All right. For adoption, please. Oh, that was it. Sorry. Takes us to, wait, what is it? Yeah, 9C.
Yep.
Please, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yep. I move for second reading of Bill number 26-094, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an addendum to the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Lee Summit R-VII School District for school resource officers in the district's schools.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields, seconded by Councilmember Shields, or Councilmember Frazier. Any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Motion passes 9-0. Can you please read for adoption?
Thank you. I move for adoption of Bill number 26-094, an ordinance authorizing execution of addendum to the intergovernmental agreement by and between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Lee Summit R-VII School District for school resource officers in the district schools.
Great. Motion's been made for adoption of Bill number 26-094 by Mayor Pro Tem Shields, and it's been seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. Any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. Please clear the board. All right. Takes us to Bill number 26-095 for adoption, please.
This is second read, isn't it?
Yeah, second reading. I'm sorry. Second reading.
Yep. I move for second reading of Bill number 26-095, an ordinance approving Amendment number 6 to the budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2026, as adopted by ordinances 10132, 10133, 10136, 10137, and 10138 by amending the authorized expenditures for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields and seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. Any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Motion passes 9-0. Can you please read for adoption?
Yep. And I move for adoption of Bill number 26-095, an ordinance approving Amendment number 6 to the budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2026, as adopted by ordinances 10132, 10133, 10136, 10137, 10138 by amending the authorized expenditures for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. Motion's been made to adopt by Mayor Pro Tem Shields and a second by Councilmember Carlisle. Any discussion? Yes, Councilmember Pryor.
This is from Mr. Head. Do I need to recuse from this? I didn't recuse just a second ago, but do I need to?
Based on information from the city manager, this does not include fire.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Motion, thank you. We have a motion made by, what's going on here? Oh, please cast your vote. Motion passes 9-0. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem? Item number 10A, please.
Okay. I move for adoption of Bill number 26-081, an ordinance vacating a portion of Southwest Jefferson Street right-of-way located south of Southwest Oldham Parkway, abutting 1111 Southwest Jefferson Street in the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields and second by Councilmember Carlisle. Any comments, questions? If not, please cast your vote. All votes are in. We have 1 nay, 7 yes, and 1 recusal. Thank you. Takes us to item 26, or Bill 26-082. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yep. I move for adoption of Bill number 26-082, an ordinance granting a special use permit renewal for outdoor ball field lighting in District PI Plan Industrial and R1 Single Family Residential on land located at 1500 Southwest Jefferson Street for a period of 20 years and 7 days to expire on May 12, 2046, in accordance with Article 6 of the Unified Development Ordinance for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Yes, motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Shields, seconded by Councilmember Carlisle to adopt Bill number 26-082. Any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. All votes are in. We have 8 yea, 1 recusal. Thank you. All right, moving right along. Mayor Pro Tem, item C.
I move for adoption of Bill number 26-083, an ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for land located generally at the southeast corner of Northwest Shipman Road, Northwest Pryor Road for John Knox Village Country Club Corridor Hybrid Villas, all in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 33 Unified Development Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. Motion's been made to adopt by Mayor Pro Tem Shields and seconded by Councilmember Carlisle. Any discussion? If not, please cast your vote. Motion passes 8 yea, 1 recusal. Thank you. All right. Takes us to committee reports. We're almost there. Any committee reports? Yes, Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you. We have CEDC in these chambers tomorrow at 4, and then Monday at 11:30 we have legislative and governmental via Zoom. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Shields.
Monday, we will also have Finance and Budget Committee, 4 p.m. in chambers, and we will be looking at the more refined version of the, I think we call it Scenario C budget that we had kind of come to a consensus at the last committee meeting, and then after that meeting, we'll come to council for a public hearing. Is that correct, Mr. Dunning?
That is correct. We'll bring the general fund and all funds on the meeting on Monday, and then be prepared for a public hearing at the city council on June 16th, I think is what is targeted.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other committee reports? If not, council comments. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you. Well, so I got a compliment today from, actually, somebody had gotten a compliment that had gotten a compliment from a resident. But, so I wanted to read the compliment. Matt LaPosha with our water, both of them are with water, I guess, and John Thompson showed incredible professionalism, persistence, and care while helping resolve a major sewer issue that could have cost the resident tens of thousands of dollars and potentially forced them from the home they love. Instead of stopping at the minimum, they took the extra steps to make sure the problem was truly solved. Their dedication made a real difference, and it's a wonderful reminder of the impact that city employees can have in people's lives. Thank you, Matt and John, for representing our city.
Excellent. I got the same notice. So, yeah, somebody's very happy and proud of that. So thank you all. Okay, Councilmember Rader.
Thank you. Just to address Mr. Floyd's comments earlier, we have meet and greets. We need more meet and greets. I think we should have them more often. I don't know what the standard is. Mr. Dunning, I think you told me it was, what, 2 a year, or how, or not maybe a standard, but what we try to do.
History would say, you know, we plan for having town halls, we'll call them, twice a year within each district if there's that desire.
Twice a year? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Thank
sure,
you.
yeah, per district, sure. And then I believe that the camera matter is supposed to go to Rules Committee. Is that what we're thinking? And when is our next Rules Committee meeting? Does anybody know?
Committees need to be formed first.
May I? So the new committee assignments will be made before the end of this month, and then once those assignments are made, then I was going to go ahead and refer it to the committee after that, and then I'm not sure how long the chair has to take that up, but I assume it will come onto an agenda in relatively short order.
So it won't be, will it be in May then, or June?
Probably June.
It'll be in June?
I would
Okay.
think at the earliest.
Okay, all right.
So-
Okay,
Yep.
that's all I have, thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Sorry, I forgot. Public comment last week, there was a public commenter that brought up an audit. And I just wanted to say, I've gotten several questions why we didn't take that to vote that night. So I just wanted to say, like, we can't take something to vote unless we're fully informed. Like, I know I'm not comfortable, and I think I could speak for everyone up here, that we're not comfortable voting on something unless we're fully informed of the cost and the process and who's doing a specific audit. So that is why it didn't go to vote last week. So, but I mean, and it's not on the agenda, yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Does it, so it
Well
needs to
said.
be on the agenda in order for it, to, like 24 hours in advance?
If my understanding, and Mr. Head can certainly chime in, but if the council is going to take any direction on a vote or a matter, then it should be published in an agenda so that the public has awareness of what's being considered at that meeting.
Okay. Perfect, that's good to know. And then, is that something that we need to discuss publicly? Is that something that will be discussed during the council, what's called a retreat, but it's really just a meeting room with bags of chips, I guess, I don't know.
I was going to wait till everyone speaks, and then I was going to make a comment about retreat, upcoming retreat, and some stuff I want to share with everyone. But can you hold for a second on that?
Yeah, absolutely, yep.
Councilmember Atkins.
And I would add that the comments from a citizen were kind of about like 6 different kinds of audits. And I don't know who's in charge of spending time to figure out how much all of them cost or how much of them can be explained through reading our existing policies or reading our existing books. So I think there's more work to be done before that becomes an actual, there's a lot of work that goes into proposals and plans and a lot of need for what is being searched for in each of the multiple categories, and some are city-based and some are personal. So I think there's a lot of work to be done there.
Thank you, appreciate that. So kind of in closing, and then Mr. Dunning will get an opportunity to make a few comments. Mr. Dunning and I have met on a couple of different occasions and had discussions. One of the things that I think I've spoken to everyone up here, but I made public during the election season, was that I thought it was important for this new body to get together, and we call it a retreat, but it's whatever you want to call it. It's a way for us as a new body to get together and also have some staff involvement, administration involvement, to help us kind of get more in sync and a little bit more aligned as a new body. And in the past, we've done these with previous councils, and we have facilitators and people that can help us with that. We're still trying to plan that, but we're looking at a date sometime in June. Maybe we'll confirm a date as soon as we have it. But we're looking at probably it being a one-day event, like on a Saturday. So as soon as we get the date confirmed, we will share that with everyone. But I think something to point out as far as some of the people that come up and make public comments, there's a lot of discussion, let's go ahead and say it, during the election season about housing, apartments. Right now, recently, there's a lot of discussion about budgets. And I think it's important, we cannot be reactive. We take public comments very serious and very respectful, but we can't react to that. We have to continue to follow a certain cadence. There's always a process that we have to follow, and a lot of it's mandated by our charter. So I think it's important for us collectively as a group to get together to be able to answer those kind of questions that are being posed to us on a weekly basis. And they're not, I know the comment was made earlier, it's not a black and white answer. There's a lot of variables involved, and we have to be very careful with how we respond. And but we will always be transparent. We will address some of these tough issues. A lot of these issues and questions that are being brought up really, quite frankly, are part of our strategic plan already. They're goals within the critical success factors that every citizen can go onto our website to look at and review and look at a lot of detail that went into these success factors, these goals that we have. So as a council, we will look at the strategic plan, and we've addressed many of the goals already. Mr. Dunning, I'm looking at you, the last few years, but there's some unfinished work we still have to continue to focus on. If you all can just hold off, and we will collectively be able to address and discuss some of these key issues that are being brought up by our citizens, which are very valid questions, and we will never ignore them or disregard them. So I want to make that very public, okay? So that's all I really have. I appreciate tonight. I know we are going to, as soon as we're finished, Mr. Dunning will finish off, but we will read ourselves to go into executive or closed session. And so, but Mr. Dunning, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. It was referenced earlier, the Lee Summit Police Department held their awards ceremony, and if it's okay with you, Mayor,
Absolutely.
Chief Forbes could highlight some of the awardees from last night, and then I just have a couple quick follow-ups after that.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Travis Forbes with the Police Department. That's Scottish in nature, by the way. But
Still not as cool as that one.
That's right. Yes, no, not nearly. We had a great awards ceremony last night where we were able to honor some folks. Chief among them were our Civilian of the Year, Christy Mitchell, who's kind of our workday superstar, who guided our department through that changeover process, and Detective Ryan Small, who's been involved in numerous large cases and does excellent work for our investigations unit. And we also issued a Purple Heart, which is something we don't like to issue very often. It's a serious line of duty injury for Jared Timbrook. We have multiple injuries throughout the year, but most of them don't rise to the level of a Purple Heart. And I think we all know Jared suffered 4 gunshot wounds last July. So it was an honor to give him that award with his family present, and as he continues his recovery and makes his way back to full duty. So I have any questions? I appreciate the attendance. It was a pretty long, and we'll try to be more efficient in the future. It's something we're going to work on, but it was great to hold it in the Green Street space and show it off more as a beautiful asset to the city. And I appreciate all who attended, and all who couldn't attend. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Well done, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one correction. I think I just mentioned June 16th for a public hearing at City Council. It's lined up to be June 2nd for the budget public hearing, assuming all things go well at Finance and Budget and we move forward with public hearing notice. So it should be June 2nd targeted for that public hearing. And then lastly, I just mentioned with respect to the suggestion about audits, is just a reminder, every year we have an independent financial audit done on our finances here as an organization. And those audits, we refer to them as the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. And those are publicly available on our website. So if folks have concerns about financial audits and things of that nature, it's all public. And those are independently done every year and shared publicly. So I would just mention that too. And that's it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Appreciate that. With that being said, we will go ahead. Mayor Pro Tem, can you read us into closed session?
Absolutely. Pursuant to Section 61021(1) of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri pertaining to legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communication between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys, and pursuant to Section 61021(2) of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri pertaining to the leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate by a public governmental body where public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration. Therefore, I move to enter a closed session.
Thank you. Please have roll call.
Second.
Oh, we have second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Shields.
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor.
Aye.
Councilmember Adkins. Aye. Councilmember Frazier.
Aye.
Councilmember Rader.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Councilmember Cravens.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Mayor Lopez.
Aye. Thank you very much. Everyone else, enjoy your evening.